Happy Friday, everyone. It's GameFace episode 114 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield.
And I'm Matt Kyle.
And we are here today to preview 2018 for you guys. We're going to go through all the big third-party games that are coming to pretty much every platform. I spent the last 5 or 10 minutes annotating all the platforms for each game that's coming out. Because a lot of times we do this and I'm like, wait, is that coming out for Switch or whatever? Right. So we've got all the data ready for you guys. In fact, I think the TriCaster is loaded up with as many clips as we've ever had for a show on GameFace. And that's saying something because we have sometimes like over 100. So big show today. A couple other topics we're going to tackle before we get to that big third-party preview. The one thing I do want to say is it is a new year, and I want to apologize for last week's stream. We updated the firmware on our TriCaster. Yeah, we could not get the stream to work. And we sat here for like an hour trying to figure it out. We couldn't figure it out, and so we just decided to pre-record the show. Obviously, that archive is up on Sifted right now. But my apologies to those of you who showed up and tried to watch the show. We should be good. Everything's sorted now. Obviously, you're watching our stream live, so...
But it did take you several days.
It did, yeah. In fact. Yeah, it took me...
TriCaster stuff is arcane,
yeah,
people.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if you realize how ridiculous some... I mean, it's like... It's like a comedy routine. It's like the thing where like the stand-up comedians talk about like, oh, error comes out, error 455. Like, what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Like that's totally what it's like trying to get the TriCaster to work.
Well, the problem with the TriCaster, for whatever reason, they don't have native settings for Twitch. Every other church streaming.tv, they have all that stupid crap.
We should just do this stream through one of those church websites because they're all built in already.
Well, then what I found, that'd be freaking hilarious. The one thing I did find out, though, is that if you pay for this like $2,000 upgrade module, then Twitch support is native.
Okay.
So, yeah. But anyway, we got it all sorted out. We'll be streaming for the rest of the year. We should be all good with that. One other note before we move on, since it is a new month, if you guys would very kindly, if you are Amazon Prime subscribers, if you wouldn't mind going up to the top right of the player and subscribing to us through Amazon Prime. You have to link your Amazon and Twitch accounts first. But then you click a little button up on the top right of the player on our channel, and it basically just gives us like $2.50. So it doesn't cost you anything, and it's actually turned out to be a pretty good revenue stream for us. So if you guys wouldn't mind doing...
a lot of tacos.
It is. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be awesome. But with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. So, yesterday, Matt, out of nowhere, Nintendo has a Direct.
Yep.
A Nintendo Direct Mini is what Nintendo called it. There was some hint that it was going to happen because, oddly enough, I think it was GameStop or some site tweeted out about the Direct like the day before and then immediately took the tweet down. So people kind of had a heads up that it was coming.
Just didn't know what time, really.
Yeah, well, and then it ended up happening like really early. Nintendo doesn't really stream those things anyway. They're basically just uploading a video to YouTube and whatnot. So out of nowhere, I wake up and I'm like, holy cow, there's a Direct, and it was mad scramble to get everything curated to the site and whatnot. So let's start talking about some of the stuff that Nintendo showed off. I think the biggest thing for most people is going to be Dark Souls 1 Remastered. And that's not just for Switch.
That's for pretty much everything.
Yeah, initially everybody kind of thought that it was going to just be for Switch. That's not the case.
Not everyone. I knew that was... Come on. Come on.
Yeah. But that
Unless Nintendo was paying for it. That would have, it was like a Bethesda scenario.
Which I wouldn't have been surprised.
That was possible. Yeah.
I wouldn't have been surprised if Nintendo did pay for it. But Remastered has like all the DLC and everything. It's kind of a
it's built basically from the ground up. Like it's almost a remake in the sense that it's in the Dark Souls 3 engine. Supports 1 through 6 multiplayers online. There's a password co-op feature, which was not in the original. It's a legit 4K native 4K support on PC, upscale 4K on Pro and Xbox One, 60 frames a second on everything except the Switch. And I'm
guessing the Switch version is just the Xbox 360 version ported over.
I think it'll probably have some of the upgraded textures. I mean, look, the original game is rough.
Yeah, I've been playing it on streams. It's rough.
But like you haven't gotten to some of the places where it gets rough. Like,
you mean like worse than the frame rates that I've seen?
Yeah,
so far?
you got to like Blighttown a little bit, I think, and like where the frame rate dips into the single digits in places. So I would be surprised if even though it's running at 30 frames a second, I bet the Switch version will run better than the last gen versions.
One can hope.
But it's legit. A legit remaster remake thing happening here. It's more than I thought they'd do. I thought basically consoles would just get the PC version with some fixes and Durante's Durante's fixes like incorporated into the game, and there you go. But no, they're doing a real thing. It's probably even going to be worth it for PC owners to double dip. And I think there's like a half price for PC owners who already have it deal going on.
I mean, one thing I will say about Switch is
I'm impressed. Like, it's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like, it's a legit treat, I think, for people who love that game.
It's a cash grab that no one's going to complain about.
Right. Well, because the original Dark Souls is a very technically
challenged,
challenged game on consoles, on PS3 and Xbox 360, and I think this is a good deal. It's not full price. It's I think it's $40 and $39.99, and like I
mean, first ever portable Dark Souls. That's kind of a big deal.
Sort of. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario when I want to play that portable. Like, like I want control and reliability, and trying to move the controls around while I'm doing something. While I'm holding the screen is not something. I am never going to do that. Put it that way.
Translation. I don't like the idea of having the entire system in my hand that I could throw against the wall instead of just a $50 controller that if it breaks, I'm not that worried about. Because this game will drive you to do those types of things, particularly if you haven't played it before or you're just not into it.
I mean, look, like playing this game now, especially after having kind of figured things out in Dark Souls 2 and played like now, it's like playing the first like up to the 4 kings of Dark Souls 1 is almost like a relaxing Zen experience to me.
Not me.
It's interesting. It's interesting how it changes so much. And Demon's Souls now is like a walk in the park. Like Demon's Souls is like, oh, I can't believe I ever had trouble with this. This is hilariously easy. So I'm kind of excited to go back and
Will you play it again?
Yeah, I'll play it again.
Yeah.
I'll probably get it on PC, I would think, because it'll be cheaper there because I already have the Prepare to Die edition. But yeah, I'm in. I'll do it.
Okay.
It's I don't know if I'll finish it, but I'll immediately, but I'll play it.
I think there is some novelty though to playing this game on a portable though.
I mean, presumably for some, but it's like it's legitimately, objectively the inferior version of this game.
I don't think there's any discussion about that.
Like, oh, there is.
I mean, you're going to pretty much say that about any third-party game going forward on Switch.
True.
There's only so much you can do.
I am not an advocate of the portability as a bonus to me. I would rather just have a more powerful system that never leaves the TV. Oh, by the way, I did actually take the Switch out of its cradle to update something because the Wi-Fi in the room I had it in was bad, so I took it over to the main room so it could get full signal while it updated something. And there's 2 little dots in the corner of the screen where it has rested against the and
I have the same problem.
Permanent. That's never going away.
Not only that, I have 2 very fine lines about an inch down on the screen from where the top of the dock has...
Where it's the heat of it just sort of burns it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not on the part where a picture is. It's like on the bezel.
Yep.
But
still there,
bullshit.
Though. And it drives me crazy.
Like, well, no, it's like I still believe with no evidence other than what we see in front of us. This thing was never meant to be a console. It was supposed to have been a handheld like replacement for the 3DS, and the Wii U shit the bed, so they decided to dock this, slap this dock thing on it, and like that dock is probably the worst designed thing Nintendo's ever made.
It is really poorly designed.
It is totally out of character for them.
And it's so expensive because it's such a piece of junk, and it costs like a lot if you need to replace it.
But it's like you look like my system is permanently damaged now from just being used the way it's supposed to be used.
No, you're right. I sent mine into Nintendo. Nintendo has it right now, so I'm hoping that they just send me a brand new one, and then the scratches will be gone.
I might bug them about it at some point. Like, I don't know. I just find that unacceptable. And if anyone else did that, they'd be getting roasted right now. But it's Nintendo, so meh.
Yep.
I mean, I'm surprised there's no amiibos. I'm surprised there isn't like an amiibo set for Dark Souls coming out.
I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
That adds like that's where they keep like the DLC. Like, if you want the DLC, you got to buy the...
I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
And if EA did that, they'd get destroyed. But if Nintendo does it, oh, it's such a cute little baby.
Oh, I could buy a Dark Souls amiibo.
Dark Souls amiibo, oh, boy.
It does sound kind of awesome, though.
I get them. I'm not lying to you, but I'm just saying there's a double standard between what Nintendo does and what they do. And, I mean, especially with all the screaming about, high res and 4K and 60 frames, 60 frames, 60 frames, 60 frames. Oh, you mean I can play it on the bus? 30 frames is great. It's like, come on, people.
Double
like,
standard.
Consistency is all I ask.
You're never going to get it.
Yeah, I know.
Not in this industry.
The only thing you can console yourself with is at least it has to run, even at 30 frames a second in portable mode, it has to run better than the PS3 version.
Yeah,
right?
You would hope.
Like, maybe Blighttown only drops to 15 or something. All
All right, before we move on and talk about the first-party stuff that Nintendo showed, I want to provide an editorial note for you going forward about GameFace. So last week's episode, we didn't stream it. We talked about that already, but we did record it and then went through the whole process we go through with the show of cleaning up the show and then rendering it and then compressing it and uploading it to YouTube and doing all the promotion and all that kind of stuff. And then Nintendo blocked the show. Usually when we have Nintendo stuff in our show, they'll just copyright flag it, which means that we can't monetize it, or sometimes Nintendo actually monetizes our show and makes money off of GameFace. This time Nintendo flat out blocked the show for for 35 seconds of Pokemon Sun and Moon footage from a trailer.
Because they know I'm a hater.
Yeah. And so we couldn't even put the show on YouTube at all. It was blocked. Nobody could watch it in all countries. And so we've made a decision as of today that we will no longer ever show Nintendo trailers in GameFace. So we're going to talk about a couple games coming up here that Nintendo unveiled in the Direct Mini. We're not going to show you footage of them, and that's going to be our policy going forward. It's just not worth it. That whole process that I mentioned literally takes like 7 or 8 hours, maybe more, depending on how long the show was. So it's just not worth it. We're going to not run a Nintendo B-roll. We're going to try to get away with gameplay here and there, but I put up the episode of Beat Shane where I played one of our patrons at Mario Kart 8. Nintendo flags it. But at least it let it run still.
Yep, Nintendo consistently 10 years behind the curve.
It's ridiculous. So anyway, let's get on and
I think most people probably just listen to us anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've never really done a poll to see how many people watch versus listen.
I can't imagine people stare at us for 3 hours. I mean, they got to have other things
Well, that's
to
the
do.
point of the B-roll and the play views and gameplay.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I don't remember the last time I actually just stared at a video podcast for that long. I mean, I listen to a lot of long video stuff, but I always go do something else while I'm listening.
Or you'll hear something that perks you up, and you'll go and watch it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I do that.
I mean,
sometimes.
people have to. I mean, we're minimized in the background, and we're probably being run at 1.5 speed, so we sound like chipmunks. Like, people got stuff to do.
People do that. Yeah, totally. So let's.
That's why we appreciate the live viewers.
Yeah,
because they can't fast forward.
Absolutely, you have to watch our ugly mugs. Let's talk first about Mario Tennis Aces. So it's for Switch. It's a Mario Tennis game. The last Mario Tennis game for Wii U bombed hard, and it was terrible. I think its Metacritic ended up being somewhere around like a 4 or a 5.
Did not. In fact,
was that Mario Tennis World Tour? I think it was.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah,
because it was actually funny. Like, because one of the people I was talking to about the Direct was saying, like, I can't wait for Mario Tennis. I mean, it's been forever since we had a Mario Tennis. I'm like, it's been like 2 years.
You just didn't own a Wii U.
He's like, oh, no, he did, but he's like, oh wow, I must have blocked that out. And I was like, yeah, apparently so.
A lot of people did.
There's a lot of Mario Tennis games. I think there's more Mario Tennis games than any other Mario sport except for golf.
Yeah.
Because the Mario Tennis games are good.
They are good. And this one, this one looks like it's going back to the old style. It's a little more serious.
Yeah.
There's like a story mode in the game that has some. Did you watch the trailer for it?
Yeah.
I wish we could show it to you right now.
Yeah, it's sure. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's like boss battles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like another one of those kind of like we need something in the schedule kind of games. But like, I like
that they can create very quickly.
Right. But I like tennis. I like Mario Tennis, or at least I didn't play the Wii U one, but the last one I played was the GameCube one, I think. But I like the GameCube one. I like the N64 one. I will probably give this one a shot.
I also love tennis games. In fact, there was a tennis game that EA put out on the Wii that actually used the Motion Plus that I played long after no one even cared about the Wii anymore. And there was this small community of people who stayed on there and would play online. And the motion controls in that game were freaking awesome. Grand Slam Tennis, maybe, I think was the name of it.
I like. I love Virtua Tennis. I love Topspin. I love that's those Sega All-Star Tennis games. I mean, I like tennis games. Like,
well, isn't it funny how, like, the first video game ever, Pong?
Well, the first coin-op,
right, is still kind of relevant decades and decades later.
Well, it's a game of angles.
Yeah,
it's a game of angles and math, and we nerds like that stuff.
We sure do.
But I was really good at Virtua Tennis. I remember one of the interns I think up in San Francisco would play me on it, and like at one point, like I won so many matches in a row, he just threw the controller down. Like, I'm very annoying in tennis games.
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty excited about this game. You're right, it is a little bit of a gap filler, but it's
a gap filler I can get behind.
Yep. Next.
Beats another damn Yoshi game.
Yeah. Next, no surprise, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is coming to the Switch.
Who could have guessed? We did.
We did, yeah. A lot of people did.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Great game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like the Donkey Kong Country games very much, but this game is
This
gorgeous.
one was pretty good, though. Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. I'll never know.
You haven't played it?
Nope. I got it for a couple people for Christmas, but I never
I would say
played
it's
it.
probably my second favorite Donkey Kong Country game.
I watched them play. I mean, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's visually
really
it's
beautiful.
just beautiful. And it's it's I'm in favor of Wii U ports to the Switch just because so many people never played them.
Yeah.
There might as well be new games to anyone outside of the core Nintendo fan demographic. So why not? I think almost anything of merit on the Wii U should get re-released
for sure
on the Switch.
Here's my fear, Matt, that this is what Retro's been working on.
It can't be. There's got to be other stuff in there somewhere.
I'm petrified that that's what's going on. That this is what Retro's been doing all this time, and that's why we haven't heard anything
Look,
from.
man, I'm getting uncomfortably convinced that that Nintendo's big holiday game for the Switch is a Smash 4 port.
I mean, I thought that they were going to show a Smash 4 port
yesterday. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
At least a mention. At least a logo, like a Metroid Prime 4 style logo reveal.
Because didn't he?
I also kind of half expected some Metroid Prime 4 something. Yeah. Something.
Didn't he say that he was getting tired of making Smash?
Yeah, but
he said that before the
last
one,
son.
And he still made it.
Yeah, but it's also dude, it's one of Nintendo's
what else are you gonna do?
What else are you doing, man?
Seriously.
You got to give the people what they want, and the people want Smash.
I could understand why he's getting sick of working on it.
Oh, absolutely. But
Nintendo will just throw a bunch of money at him and be like, deal with it.
Yeah, but it's a surefire. It keeps up developer relations with other third parties for them. It's a celebration of why people love Nintendo. It gets them out there into the tournament scene in a way that Puckin certainly isn't.
Yeah.
And there's no downside to making another Smash or doing a port of Smash to expose it to a larger audience on the Switch. There's no reason not to do that game.
Oh, we should have mentioned that Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze does have Funky Kong in it now.
Yes, he's easy mode or something. He's
that game is hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's a challenging game.
So I guess it's Funky Kong is sort of like how Luigi or somebody would take over in New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't care. I mean, I'm not one of those people that would freak out if there was an easy mode in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't use it.
Yeah, I don't care. Just let people play how they want to play.
Yeah.
Next up, The World Ends With You.
Yeah,
definitely the biggest shocker of the whole thing.
That's a good one to drag out of the locker. That's a good. I like that game. I thought that was really good. And
it's kind of one of those cult hit games from whenever.
And it's just intensely weird, and there's nothing else like it. I am interested. I mean, I guess I haven't played it on I know it came out on cell phones and stuff. But the original game kind of had it used the dual screen thing really interesting, where you had to do stuff on the touchscreen while things were happening above it. I guess they just sort of combine everything now. But it's an interesting game with a sensibility to it that's sort of this weird mix of Kingdom Hearts and Jet Set Radio, and it's really cool. If you need to do ports of stuff to fill your release schedule, this is a good call.
I also appreciate that they'd already updated the art for the mobile version, so it doesn't look like the original. It looks much better.
It's going to look good. It's like nothing else on the system or most systems, if we're being honest. It kind of scratches that Persona itch a little bit,
with a little bit of music and rhythm thrown in there.
Yeah, if
there's really never been a game like it before or since.
You can't complain that you're not getting your daily dose of weird Japanese crap on the Switch after this.
That's true.
Between this and Bayonetta, your quirky is covered.
Well, already the Switch has outsold the Wii U in Japan. It took 10 months for it to outsell the Wii U in Japan.
A good Mario and Zelda will do that for you.
It will, absolutely. But it's doing very well over there. It's doing well everywhere. And then that's kind of it for the big stuff. There is some Luigi DLC coming for Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
Did you read about it?
It's some balloon thing or something. I don't know. I don't care. It's Luigi. I figured he was coming.
Of course, yeah. But I thought they could incorporate him in a better way. But whatever.
Well, that's Luigi.
It's free.
That's Luigi for you.
It is free DLC. And that's pretty much it for the Direct Mini. There wasn't a whole lot of other information in there. There was another big story, at least in my opinion, from Nintendo this week, and that is that Nintendo has re-trademarked 1080 snowboarding.
Right. I texted you about that in the middle of the night when I saw that.
Yeah. And then I woke up and I was like, woohoo! I am really, really excited about this. I was maybe the world's biggest 1080 player ever.
I played a lot of 1080 on the N64 with my friends at the time. They were big into that. It was like San Francisco Rush. It was one of those games we just played over and over and over and over and over and over and over just to see what we could do and how we could do things.
And a lot of people don't realize is the original 1080 for the most part was really a racing game.
Yeah,
it wasn't real trick. There was like a half pipe where you could.
Yeah, it wasn't like an SSX thing. In fact, SSX was interesting in the sense that it wasn't this.
Right.
Because 1080 had kind of mastered this, so like SSX going in this different direction with it was sort of the only thing anyone could do because you weren't going to beat 1080.
Yeah, and 1080 was a lot about physics. It felt very real. Back then, I was snowboarding a lot, and I had never felt a more accurate representation of the sport in a game.
The shifting of the weight in this game is really, I don't know if it's realistic, but it's believable, which is more important than being realistic.
Well, also making sure that your board is always oriented with the ground has a lot to do with how much speed you have and whether you bail when you land on jumps or when you land tricks.
And it's got you leave the little carved trail, which was unusual then.
Oh yeah, it was funny. There was like cool borders, which my friends who predominantly played PlayStation or didn't have an N64. I go to their house, they're like, you want to play Cool Borders? And I play Cool Borders for like 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, this is trash compared to 1080.
It's like more like poor man's Borders.
Yeah.
80.
And then on the GameCube, there was 1080 Avalanche, where the big hook was literally that there were avalanches.
Yeah, which was just like, a little too SSX-y for me.
I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't...
for me, the perfect balance is SSX3, which kind of had the you versus the mountain thing that this had, but with sort of a more like trick-based sort of extreme style. But this game is and getting on the ice, like the ice felt totally different when you're.
We also see the reflections in the ground, like that kind of stuff just wasn't happening.
I'm real happy if this is real and this really happened. I'm really happy to see 1080 come back.
I can't understand why they would have re-trademarked it if either. I mean, I'm starting to think I'm like, well, there's really no virtual console on Switch yet.
Well, one day maybe, but like I would rather see a new game.
Absolutely, yeah. And
I mean, sure, put this out on Virtual Console, whatever you want. I think it already is out was on Wii. I think
it was, yeah, and I think even maybe Wii U. It came
most
out
stuff
for as well.
like transferred over to Wii U eventually.
But what about 1080 Avalanche? Maybe they're doing a remaster of that or something. Who knows? But
one way or the other, I request that they rock their body.
Yeah, that's
and give me back Ricky Winterborn.
Yeah, and. Yeah, so this wasn't even related to the Nintendo Direct, but to me this was probably the biggest news.
No, I think this is definitely good news.
And now we're just waiting for Wave Race, right?
Yeah, it's time for Wave Race, and how about a frickin' F-Zero? Like, how long has it been? It's been the GameCube. GameCube was the last F-Zero.
Here's my fear with F-Zero, though, is that there's been all these hover racing games released for Nintendo platforms over the last couple years. And Nintendo's looked at the sales of those games.
Yeah, Wipeout has not done well.
I mean, there's also like Fast Racing RMX.
And what was it, Red Zone or something like that?
And none of them have done very well. Yeah, so I hope Nintendo ignores that. I'm an F-Zero fan as well.
Right, but it's like F-Zero is different because it's F-Zero, and also because it's on the Switch, and the Switch needs games. Yeah. So like. And also, like, I think you can make a case for F-Zero in the sense that, the Wipeout Omega Collection didn't sell too well, but I'm a giant Wipeout fan. I loved Wipeout. Wipeout XL has one of the best licensed soundtracks in the history of the medium, and I didn't even know that game came out.
Yeah.
Like, it just came it was, like, all of a sudden it was on sale this like, past Christmas, I think. I was looking through the PSN sale, and it was on sale for, like, $15, and I'm like, that came out? Like, I don't own that? Like, what happened? Like, how did that happen? And so I picked it up, but it's great, but it's like apparently nobody cares, including Sony.
Yeah.
Like, Sony never told me that was out.
Well, F-Zero GX is, I mean, it's not really fair to compare that to a lot of these other kind of indie hover racers because it's a far more robust game. It has a story mode, which is frickin' impossible. Literally one of the hardest racing games I've ever played in my life.
Isn't Nintendo going to flag the 1080 footage?
I doubt it. It's too old.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I hope not. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn by saying the lack of success of other hover racers will have an impact on whether F-Zero comes. But
I feel like Nintendo doesn't really look at what other people are doing when they make their decisions.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah. So if they get in their head to make an F-Zero, they will. But and of course, there's the other giant question mark that's been hanging around for a couple of years now: is where the hell is Pikmin 4?
Yeah. Where is that game? I mean, Miyamoto said it was done like a year and a half ago.
Not as done as we'd think, maybe.
Maybe there's a Q4 game as well.
They got to have something.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel if that Pokemon game isn't ready, they got to have something.
Yeah. It probably will be Smash. Even if Smash is done already, they'll hold it till Q4.
Smash and Pikmin. That's from Mario Odyssey to Smash Brothers and Pikmin.
Yep. A little bit of a drop, but anything's going to be a drop from Zelda and Mario. That's except for maybe Metroid, which we love, but a lot of people don't buy it. So.
Yeah, Metroid is not on them. To me, it is because that's probably my favorite Nintendo series. Period. But it's not market-wise.
It's not on parity with as far as sales are concerned.
No,
so.
nothing is.
Yep.
Nothing's on par with Mario and Zelda. I just hope they, for once, I do hope they kind of take the easy route and do the Majora's Mask thing and just like pump out a sequel to Breath of the Wild like next year.
It would be smart. Yeah. But I have a feeling they would probably just keep doing DLC for it instead. Seems to be Nintendo's MO anyway.
Well, they said they're done with DLC for that.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Like that plan that they announced, that was it?
Yeah, the Champions Ballad thing, they said, I think at the Game Awards, they said that's it.
Okay.
Or after, it was like interviews after it or something. They said that's the end of it.
I know they did say they're already working on the new one, which no big surprise there.
No, but like I think if you can get another one out like in the span of time most developers get something like sequel out, like I think you will keep the momentum going in a really, really strong way. And like you don't even need to make 2 years because 2 years would be March. I think you can make holiday 2019 and everybody be super happy. So I'm hoping for that.
All right, so that's it for Nintendo's Direct Mini. We're going to talk next about some rumors that have been swirling around the industry. We've been pretty hard on Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel guilty about it. I think we're just being honest with where Microsoft is right now. I have noticed a couple people on the site who are probably Microsoft fans have started to get a little testy about it.
Yeah, well, I bought an Xbox One X this week, so bite me.
I still don't own one.
Because I got a 4K TV,
right.
So I'm like, well,
might as well use it.
So I got it. And I haven't really played it much because it's in another room, and we don't have couches there yet.
Yeah.
I loaded up Forza and Gears of War and everything on it. It looks freaking gorgeous. Very nice. 4K movie player. I mean, that's mainly what I need. I literally didn't have a 4K disc player, so that's what I wanted it for.
Most people don't.
And I was like, well, I could either spend like the $200 or whatever on the S, or I guess there's just the Xbox One now, or I could spend a little extra and get something that plays games at that level too. And I decided to splurge because, hey, it's Christmas. So, looks great.
My birthday's coming up in like 3 weeks, and it's number one on my list. It was number one on my list over the holidays too, but nobody bought me a gift that was that expensive.
And I'm still like amazed at. Even though obviously I've seen it several times, but I'm still amazed at how small that thing is.
Yeah, it's really mind-blowing.
Without an external power supply.
I know, it's crazy.
That is a piece of hardware right there.
I mean, one thing I'll say
I'm
is
impressed.
That, I still have the base systems for both Xbox One and PS4. I'm going to buy an Xbox One X before I buy a PS4 Pro, even though I play my PS4 way more. So, trying to say some positive stuff about Microsoft sifters. So anyway, rumors are starting to float around about first-party software for Xbox One. It's been a weakness of the platform for a good, since launch, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out of the gate okay, and since then it's kind of limped along as far as first-party output is concerned.
Yeah.
And some of the
I think they were counting way more than they should have been on non-gaming content carrying the system.
Well, that was the plan, right? From the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you saw that the Halo TV show is still going to happen. Which was announced at E3 when they announced that whole TV.
Right. Oh, the
Spielberg
years
thing.
Ago.
Yeah. It's still coming, apparently.
5 years later.
I know, it's crazy.
Half a decade of development time. Okay.
It better be good. So that kind of leaked out, but there's also some games that have come out. So one of the rumors is that a new Perfect Dark is on the way.
Yeah, that'll move the needle.
Well, it won't, though.
No,
will it?
Of course not.
Yeah.
It didn't help 360 really.
Well, that's because Perfect Dark Zero was a bad game.
Yeah. I don't see this really differentiating itself.
Is this really a beloved franchise?
No.
Perfect Dark?
I mean, it's like I recognize the name, but it doesn't make me go, ooh, I want to play.
Perfect Dark was like when they couldn't make GoldenEye 2.
Right.
Because of the license or whatever. I liked Perfect Dark on the N64. In fact, I would say I even loved it, But Zero, I think that to me
I like the original Perfect Dark a lot more when I played it on Rare Replay.
Yeah, of course.
Because it didn't run at 10 frames a second.
Literally, you had the N64 expansion pack, Matt. It would run at 12 frames a second.
Oh, I did. It's still not acceptable.
No, it definitely wasn't. But Perfect Dark Zero, to me, was the first sign that Rare had lost a lot of employees. When I played, I mean, I was excited to all get out to play Perfect Dark Zero, man. I was like, oh my gosh. And I started playing and I was like, wait a minute. This is a Rare game?
Well, I still so we did that launch thing at that hangar up in the freaking desert. You know, remember that? It's
Xbox Zero Hour was
Zero
called.
Hour, that's
I still
right.
have like a pullover sweatshirt.
Yeah. It was like 36 hours where all these people, fans went and like basically you played games.
In the middle of nowhere.
Middle of a hangar in the middle of nowhere up in Palmdale.
Why is that thing there?
Because that's
what
all
there
is.
What that thing?
What, the hangar?
Yeah.
Well, that's all Air Force stuff. That's a whole.
Really?
All those towns grew up around there because it was an Air Force base.
Oh.
So that's just like leftover like plane storage, basically. I mean, that whole thing is just a flat pan. Like you can take an airplane off from anywhere in the Lancaster Palmdale area.
Dude, do you remember when the trucks rolled in with all the systems in it when it hit midnight?
Yeah.
And they opened up the back gate of the truck.
And they
all fell onto the ground.
And everyone's like, I don't want those. I don't want that one. I want yeah. And
people had waited for like 48 hours or something crazy.
Yeah. And they were all like, people were all sleeping on the ground.
Well, they had given out. In fact, you know what? Those beanbags over there are from that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Those
white beanbags.
Sam, actually, would you grab that beanbag and just toss it underneath?
That's true. I would never thought of that.
Yeah. So basically, what Microsoft did is it had this huge hanger that was like, you just throw it underneath there. I have two of these beanbags. In fact, I'm just going to put my feet on it for the rest of the episode.
But it was That's
where
ridiculous.
These came from, these beanbags. And people were so tired and exhausted waiting to get their Xbox 360 that they were just piling up these beanbags and just laying on them.
Like they were creating mattresses on the ground in the hangar.
And then after all that, the trucks roll in. And they open the back gate, and just hundreds of systems just fall right onto the concrete. And you just look around and see people going like, I waited all this time. I'm not buying one of those.
Yeah. So we actually did get to go up early, like before everything else, because we were
shooting
it.
live.
We were shooting live.
Was that the first live thing that we did like that? Was that before we did E3
No, it was
Live?
after E3.
It was after E3?
So that's
why
we got to do it. It was because of E3
right.
Live that year. And so because it was it was the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I remember I drove up there with Sessler and he came up and we did all our stuff, and at the end of the night, he and I drove back that night. So we did the midnight launch, shot everything, got our systems, did all the interviews, shut everything down, and drove back to LA at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I remember I bought the system and I bought Cameo and Gun because
why not?
Because it was launch and Gun and Condemned and Perfect Dark Zero.
Yeah.
And I didn't play
Condemned probably ended up being
Condemned's probably the best game of those four. Yeah. And I remember I played Condemned, I played Cameo, and I didn't get to Perfect Dark. And then after we came back from Thanksgiving, I played Perfect Dark at the office copy. And I was like, oh. So I never opened, to this day, my copy of Perfect Dark Zero from that night is still sealed on the shelf. Because now it's like I look at it, I'm like, well, I can't open it now. I mean, now it's a relic.
Even Cameo, it ended up getting neutered by the time it came out. Because it was a GameCube game that was really freaking cool when they showed it on GameCube, and then when they ended up releasing it, it was like a shell of what it was supposed to be.
Cameo was almost like Eternal Darkness in terms of how many E3s it showed up at. It jumped systems, it changed
like a
format, And I mean, we must have played 3 or 4 different versions of the Cameo over the years before it actually came out, and then it came out. And we're like, what the hell is this?
Well, they showed it on the GameCube two E3s. And then Rare's bought by Microsoft, and then another year and a half or 2 years later, finally Cameo comes out.
I remember playing it it was the kiosk right next to Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah.
Which was also on the N64, or Dinosaur Planet at that point. It was
and then it was moved over to GameCube. So I'd say our hype level for a new Perfect Dark game, not that good.
Not tops. No.
I mean, I will say the Sea of Thieves has, even though it's not out yet, there is a closed beta starting next week that I think I'm going to get into.
I thought you just have to pre-order it, I think.
You do, but I'm not going to pre-order if they're just going to send me a code for review. But I did reach out to Microsoft PR, and it looks like I'm going to get in on the beta, so I'm going to have a clearer picture of it. But what I've seen and played of Sea of Thieves so far has restored a little bit of my faith in Rare. One is unique, and one it seems to be better constructed than some of Rare's more recent games. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts was like sacrilege to me. Like,
it seems to at least know what it is,
right?
Which is a step up from recent Rare.
So that gives me a little more hope about Perfect Dark, but still, after Zero, man, it's hard to have much faith in that franchise. But we'll see. That might be one of those franchises that was just better left off dead.
But at least it fills a hole in the schedule.
Yep.
And isn't Gears of War.
I mean, exactly. I mean, you'll take, and if you're an Xbox owner and only an Xbox owner at this point, you are all over the new Perfect Dark if the rumor is true. A new Fable is the other rumor that's been going around the last couple of weeks.
By the Forza Horizon guys, I think. The Playground Games keeps getting brought up.
Which is really weird.
Well, because they were hiring for like an RPG, action RPG or something, so people are assuming that it's Fable.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I've seen crazier ideas.
Well, I mean, look at Guerrilla after making Killzone, and it makes Horizon Zero Dawn. That was something that Colin Moriarty and I talked about for like 20 minutes. Was like how our minds were blown that that studio could make that game. So, you know, I won't immediately just write it off because all you've made is racing games.
Especially because the word Horizon is involved in both equations.
Yeah. Touche. But, so, yeah, I will say, you know, my opinion has kind of changed. It used to be where, okay, this studio makes this game. And if you tell me that they're going to make a game in another genre, my hopes for that game are very dim. But after what Guerrilla did, I mean, it seems like anything's possible at this point.
What about Rare? They made action games and shooters. And
Rare's always been that way, though. It's never been just
Diddy Kong Racing.
It's never been a one-genre studio, though. But, like, the guys who make Forza and, like, Turn 10, like, those guys just make driving games. So it'll be interesting to see if that is actually the case.
There's not I mean, Forza Horizon 3, like, you're already kind of halfway to an RPG in that game. You just need to take out the driving model and add swords.
Or keep the driving in it.
Or give swords to the cars.
Yeah.
I mean, you know. I mean, you're one pointy object away from a jousting sim.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really get down to it. I mean, with all its flaws and foibles and warts, I love Fable.
I love that franchise.
I like all three Fables.
Yeah, me too.
For what they are.
Yeah.
You know, disappointment and everything. I played all of them multiple times, and I miss it. I do miss the Fable games.
I mean, look, I was all over Fable Legends, man. Like,
yeah,
I was
Fable Legends
hyped
was
for
cool.
that game. Like, I still can't believe that they canceled it. Turned it into a free-to-play game and then just canceled it.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I played it a couple times. I played it at E3. I think the last time it was shown. And I did tell them that, like, when they're like, "Oh, what do you think?" And I'm like, "It doesn't feel right. Like, it didn't feel right to me because Fable's got a feel. Fable's got a chunkiness to it.
Sure, yeah.
That I really like, and it feels good to play when it's at its best. It's not always at its best.
No.
But when it is, it feels really good. And Fable Legends never quite captured that for me. But I think it could have gotten there with more tweaking.
Well, it was like an asymmetrical style game.
Well, yeah,
which maybe wasn't the best idea, but...
No, but it was like, I mean, I played a lot of board games that work that way, and they're a lot of fun. Like, where one player is basically the dungeon master.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like trying to screw over the other players. And, like, the idea of kind of this asymmetrical thing where one player is kind of has more power than the others, but the others have more agency is an interesting way to do things. Way more than like something like I would say like Evolve, where like just one player has a really powerful character, and you're both sort of doing this sort of action-y thing. Whereas like Fable Legends was like you putting traps down, you were spawning enemies, and like you weren't in control necessarily of what the enemies were doing. It wasn't like a PvP thing, but like you were the one kind of creating this challenge for the players to overcome, and that's a cool idea.
Microsoft
I do wonder
put so much time and money into that game.
I do wonder if they would maybe cannibalize some of that for a new Fable.
It's possible. Here's the thing, though.
Like the mingle player elements of Forza Horizon might be part of why they would pick Playground Games to do something like Fable if they want to really try to push it into kind of that asymmetrical mingle player idea. Because Fable's always had that sort of thing where you could see the other players as like little orbs with the, you know, remember that? Like it was like fake-ass co-op kind of thing where like, you just see other players moving through your world.
Yeah.
And like, I always liked that element, and I felt like they never really exploited that or did that correctly, and when they did let you kind of join up with people, it took forever, and the matchmaking was awful, and like everyone was jerking around because the connection sucked, and like there was something there, and like Fable never really got there with it, and I would be interested to see like Playground Games, if they're indeed the developers on this, if they could like kind of, because they have a pretty smooth experience in that regard with Forza Horizon. Like people go in and out of your game, you see like ghosts of people and players, and like they do a really good way. They convince you very nicely that there's other people in your game, even if there aren't.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and like I'd like to see them try to kind of apply those lessons to something like Fable, because I feel like that's the one place that Fable really never even came close to realizing its potential.
Well, speaking of realizing potential, with Xbox One X, we could be at a place where all the promises Peter Molyneux made about the very first Fable could actually finally happen. I mean, with that hardware, you could maybe plant a tree.
I don't
and then
care
come back.
About that.
I'm just saying that was the big example everybody pointed to.
Right, but it's also
type of
but it's also
procedural
the most boring example. Like who wants to watch a tree grow? Like that's the more interesting stuff was things like where he said like, oh, if you be like the world being aware of your fame was the thing that I thought was a shame that they never really, and they tried, and there's elements of it, and like people reacting to your reputation is one thing. But
all games do that now, though.
Right, but he was also talking about stuff where like kids would cut their hair like your character's hair to look like you and stuff, and like there's things like that was never. I mean, I think there was stuff sort of like that in Fable 3, but like it was never a call out. It was never meaningful.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like I mean, you could do a lot of the stuff he talked about originally, and like although you could argue that a lot of the stuff he talked about originally in that GDC announcement has been done by other people.
It has,
because it was out there and Fable didn't do it, so someone else was like, well, I want to see that. I mean, they did do the Acorn thing eventually in Lost Chapters.
Right.
It was tremendously underwhelming, but they did do it.
Yeah, I think that was just to satiate the people who had been badgering him in interviews for the last.
Well, also because
years.
I mean, when he said what he said, I think people were picturing something more like black and white.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing where everything was sort of
living,
interactive
breathing,
and living and moving and happening, as opposed to like if you put this object here, like a cutscene later, there would be a tree, and it's like. Everyone, that's just video games. There's nothing special about that idea. The special part of that idea was like being able to affect the world in a tangible and recognizable way. And Fable has always kind of realized that was a thing put in front of it, that it put in front of us rather. But it's always punted on that.
Yeah.
It's always kind of like being like, hey, that's kind of what they said, right? And it's like, okay. I mean, fine. But it's like that. It's like No Man's Sky, where it's like, well, you can see other people now. Okay, I can see an orb with their name over it.
Yeah,
that's not really.
That's not really what I thought.
I mean, good job, like completing the assignment, but like you didn't
that's
really
all you did.
Exceed expectations, and that's how I kind of feel Fable is with all those sort of like unique little promises they made. And maybe this one can do that, or maybe this one can do something where it breaks away and frees itself of those shackles and becomes something new.
Well, I think we can both agree that we would be really excited to hear about a new Fable.
Absolutely. I would love to see Fable come back in just about any form that isn't a mobile game.
Yep. Here.
You give me a card game again, I'm going to kill you. Like, no, don't do that.
And then the last thing, there's an unannounced IP. No one really knows what it is or who it's coming from. I'm assuming we'll get a look at that at E3 if these rumors are actually true.
Yeah, this is the hard news we bring you here.
Yeah. Unannounced
There's
IP.
a thing, nobody knows. It might be there, who knows, whatever.
May not be. So that's it. But that's some hope, because we've really had no hope with Xbox for a while.
I mean, I still feel
there hasn't even been rumors swirling about Xbox.
I mean, I still feel like that's not going to, that is still not going, even if those things are, all three of those things are true, it's still not really a particularly robust lineup.
But it's better than
what we had, and it's better than what we know.
Which isn't saying much, but we'll take what we can get at this point with Xbox.
And hopefully they're all this year. It's like you announce a new Fable, great. If it's fall 2019,
ouch.
Yeah.
You wonder if Rare could develop two games at once as well.
I don't really know much about how
or
Rare operates
Microsoft
now.
has schluffed that IP off.
Or I mean, Playground Games could theoretically. I mean, they're a big company, and it's the persistently there's talk of another Horizon this year because it's time.
That rumor also popped up this week after we mentioned it last week in the show.
Because it's time. Every 2 years you get a Horizon. They alternate, and I'm on board with that. But it's but it's also like Horizon has got to be kind of business as usual for them. They know how that works.
I would trade Forza Horizon 4 for a new Fable.
I don't know if I would if I was Microsoft, because I think Forza Horizon probably sells pretty well.
I think Fable would sell better, though.
I don't think it would.
Even with Horizon coming out every 2 years, and Horizon 3 is so good. I really don't know that I need another one.
No, you got a point, but it's I don't know what the sales numbers would be like, but I feel like a fantasy RPG is a tougher sell to kind of your average casual than cool, I'm going to drive around Denver area with a snow bro kind of guy yelling in my ear about which races to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Forza Horizon 4 for me kind of hinges on where it takes place.
Yeah.
Like you gotta give
That's
me
a big part of it.
setting.
Yeah, for sure.
And they've nailed it, I think, 3 times.
Yeah.
They pick good places. I really would like them to tone down the bro-y angle on it. I mean, it's like the whole kind of...
That's all up to the focus group, Matt.
I know, but just like the Coachella
Who
meets...
do they get in there for
like the Coachella meets Burning Man thing they do
is
just
ridiculous.
Sort of incredibly obnoxious.
It's really stupid, yeah.
And there's this sort of feeling of like, okay, I'm playing this game. How rich is everyone here? That I can get into. What do I do for a living that I can be here and destroy cars for 3 weeks? I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Like, who did we pay off in Australia to just tear the whole country?
The whole country apart. Absolutely.
They even do that in the radio broadcast where it's like, oh, they're driving all over the place and residents are complaining, but who cares? We're Forza Horizon.
They're rich.
You can't do that. Like, that's not how, it's like if Burning Man took place in Times Square.
That would be awesome. But that is the beauty of video games, Matt. You can suspend your disbelief. It's a fantasy
Don't think
world.
about it too hard.
Yep. So hopefully these games aren't fantasy. Let's go next we're going to continue our 2018 preview. Last week we did the 3 big boys. We did Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. And this week we're going to do all the third-party stuff. We're going to go publisher by publisher. I think that's the best way to break it up. We have 6 publishers, and then we have kind of a catch-all at the end for the publishers who have only announced a game or 2 for this coming year. So we're going to kick things off with Electronic Arts, the biggest publisher in the industry, pretty much. I think the first thing
certainly the most talked about.
For sure. We talked about them a lot on this show as well. Star Wars. What's up with Star Wars video game this year? Are we going to get nothing? Are we going to go a year without a Star Wars game?
Probably.
Wow. Obviously, Visceral's game's not coming.
No.
And Motive's
game's not coming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an outside chance, I would say, that Respawn's might be ready, because they've been working on that longer than we think, probably.
I had that conversation with Pac when we shot Pactor Factor last weekend, and he doesn't seem too confident that that's going to happen.
I'm pretty sure that's a 2019 game at the earliest. Like that's a thing that I'd be surprised. But it's I would also say it's of the ones we know they have in development, it's the only one that could even conceivably be ready this year.
Pac made a good point. He said that it's never taken Respawn more than 2.5 years to create a game. Mm-hmm. And based upon the statements that are out there and the information that's out there, it's possible that Respawn could have a game for the end of the year this year.
And I bet EA has greatly encouraged them to be able to do that, but I don't know. The other thing is, you don't want to rush out another half-baked piece of crap. Well, not to call it Battlefront 2 a piece of crap, but a lot of people would not disagree that it was. I don't think it was, but a lot of people did think it was.
What's Metacritic average? I talk about it on GIFE that we just published yesterday. So Metacritic average is a 66.
Yep.
That's insane. Having played the game, that's insane to me.
That's almost as low as The Last Jedi.
That's really crazy. I don't know how it ever got that low. There's some people that gave that game a 1 and a 2.
The loot box thing is a real sore point for a lot of people.
It really is. So. It's really funny how
because it's still a pretty good game.
I've enjoyed every moment I've played with it. So, but anyway, what he did go on to say was, I would not see it coming out before the end of this calendar year, but maybe it makes it out in March
fiscal
of next year. Yeah,
not out of the question. It's real weird that you would have a year with no Star Wars game.
When you have that license.
Yeah.
Man, you're just missing out on so much opportunity there.
I mean, presumably the Amy Hennig game was supposed to be this year.
Right.
And that's what we've lost.
Yeah. And there's no way another studio's picking that up and finishing it.
You can't. There's nothing you can do there.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to write this one off.
Yeah. You think they're going to completely write it off, or do you think someone else will pick it up? Because that's what EA kind of hinted at. That another studio will kind of pick up the project and try to salvage it.
Well, they said Vancouver would pick it, but it sounds like they want to turn it into more of a Destiny kind of thing, which means you're probably overhauling it to the degree that we're not seeing it for another 2 years.
Or more. I mean, if that's you're going from a single-player linear...
Right. to a Destiny-style multiplayer kind of thing, and then
with loot boxes.
Also consider, if that thing's not crazy far along when Anthem comes out, Anthem's probably going to have some ideas that they decide, we want to put this kind of thing in here, and then that pushes that back a little bit. That's happened with a couple of games I know of that I don't think I can talk about, but I know that happened to a couple of games with Zelda, where some people played Zelda who were working on games who were like, this has to be in our game. Now that we've gotten this idea from this game, and then that's a thing that has delayed a couple things. It's people incorporating good ideas that they got from other good games. So
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Anthem doesn't do something like that. Although maybe it's not going to be as disruptive because Anthem is in house with EA, so maybe there's some communication there and they can kind of get some synergy going.
Next up, Dragon Age.
Well, we still don't know if this exists, but it probably does.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it exists. Doesn't come out this year, though.
Maybe. I mean,
it's been a long time since Inquisition.
Yeah. I mean,
been what, 4 years now?
Yeah, it's about. I mean, but then again, it was 4 years or whatever since Mass Effect, and that game still wasn't done.
Yeah,
it did come out. But it wasn't done.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I would be surprised if we didn't hear about it this year. Out this year? I wouldn't bet against it, but I'm also not going to put it in my fantasy draft.
Yeah, I'd give it about a 25% chance of that happening. And yeah, I think also with what happened with Mass Effect, maybe EA's a little more cautious with that franchise going forward.
At the very least, I hope it's not just another reskinned Inquisition like Mass Effect was.
Yep.
Like, they got to come up with some new ideas for this thing.
Yep. Next up, A Way Out. That's definitely coming out this year.
Yes, that is for sure.
That is the split-screen, cooperative Prison Break game from Joseph Fares.
From a drunken, crazy man.
He was also in Geif that was published last night. I have a little rant on his rant, a rant on a rant from the Game Awards, where I feel personally that he kind of embarrassed the entire industry, but take that for whatever you think it's worth. Is this one of EA's big games for 2018?
No.
I think you may change your perspective on that as we go through EA's offerings.
In terms of, like, I guess, like, proportionally, maybe, but, like, if you mean, like, sales-wise, this thing's going to come and go.
I'm talking about, like, marketing and push.
I mean, yeah, there'll probably be a push for this, for sure. But, like, I think this is going to come and go. This is going to come and go like an Army of Two sequel. No one's going to notice. I
mean, one thing I noticed while putting together the show and getting the rundown together is that EA is kind of a little bit like Bethesda. It doesn't really announce a lot of stuff all that early. Mm-hmm. You'll see by the time we finish EA, you'll be like, really? That's all there is that we know about right now? I mean, obviously, all the sports games, we know they're all coming, right? We're not even going to bother discussing those.
But I mean, that's true. Like, EA doesn't actually put a whole lot of content out each year, aside from their sports content.
And when they do put a game out, it's like you hear about it a lot of times, like 6 or 8 months before it comes out. So.
But that makes me wonder. I mean, the sports stuff, obviously, that all has to be fairly lucrative. I mean, just because they're guaranteed sales.
Yeah.
But like, you start to look at EA a little bit like a company that, they've got like basically 4 or 5 tentpole pictures each year, and you start to worry about them if one of them bombs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't think A Way Out is going to move the needle in the sales chart. And like, if I don't think they're not spending Battlefront level money on this game.
No,
obviously.
definitely not.
But it's just like, it's that Mirror's Edge thing or Dead Space thing where it's like, if this doesn't perform the way they want it to perform, do they stop taking chances, or do they shut this developer down, or do they?
Well,
like bad things happen with.
I mean,
with
Mirror's
EA
Edge
things.
bombed hard,
right?
And they still greenlit this.
Yeah.
So EA's still sticking with it,
which is a different experiment. But it's like you worry about the people that make these games because, like, you have a chance to experiment under an EA budget. But it feels like if it doesn't pay off, EA will gladly take you out behind the shed and shoot you in the head.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they did with Visceral.
Yeah.
Who never really did anything wrong.
No.
When it comes down to it, I mean, they did nothing but make really good product for a long time.
Yeah. And then one misstep in EA's eyes, and that was it. So
a misstep that we didn't even see.
Yeah.
Like that was all internal.
I know.
And it's like, crazy. Really? You thought it was?
We never got to pass judgment on it.
No, it was better in their minds to destroy this company that made all these good games
over one project
than to just sort of like say, okay, let's scale it back and
trash the
go
project,
back to what we're
scale
good
it back, and let them do something else.
Yeah,
it really is bizarre.
Very weird.
You think they could have sold that studio to somebody else? Or it still doesn't add up to me. Next game we're going to talk about, Faye. There's another game where they're kind of taking a risk.
Oh, yeah. God, I barely remember what this is.
It's kind of like EA's new Unravel, I guess.
Right.
Because remember they have that like little indie sort of imprint that they have inside EA.
They should call it EA Cred.
Yeah. Maybe they should. But what you're saying about EA taking chances, like, look at this game. I mean, this isn't something. This is obviously not a game that's going to sell as well as a Battlefront or something like that. And obviously EA's not putting it anywhere near as much money into it either. But it is kind of an interesting concept, and it's good to see a big publisher like EA kind of branching out a little bit and doing some smaller projects.
At least something with some weird and some imagination. Cut to Ubisoft's Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer. It's like, Ubisoft don't care.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And maybe that's what's happened here. Maybe EA is starting to follow Ubisoft's lead a little bit and saying, hey, let's start expanding our horizons a little bit and propagate
this
some of this
existing
stuff.
in the face of, I don't think Unravel did particularly well.
It did not, yeah.
So that actually reminds me, I was in Toys R Us last week and I saw Chibi Robo is on clearance, and the one that
the 3DS version of Chibi Robo?
And the one that comes with the amiibo is $1 less than the one that doesn't.
What?
Because they want that shelf space back.
I would want that Chibi Robo amiibo.
It's $8.98.
Really? Wow. I may have to go pick that up. I like Chibi Robo.
Yeah, so do I.
It's a cool
character.
character.
I have the GameCube one.
Yep, me too. I played a lot of that game. Next up, EA Sports UFC 3. This game was announced just a couple months ago, and now it's coming out here in like a few weeks, I believe. Mm-hmm. It appears that it's still a little bit behind the curve when it's compared to other EA Sports games. They did announce like a quote-unquote story mode for this, and that's what you're seeing right now, the trailer for that. But what it really amounts to is in between matches, you go on quote-unquote social media and brag about your wins or whatever. So there's like this weird like algorithm or quotient.
The true MMA experience.
Yeah. It's you can see all this stuff here. It's all about like building your fame and then getting a shot at the title. And one thing I did read is that, and this is crazy, Joe Rogan, for those of you who don't, right there he is, right on cue.
Boom.
Joe Rogan, for those of you who don't know, he's probably MMA's biggest announcer.
Oh, yeah.
He's been doing it for forever.
Certainly the only one I can name.
Yeah, exactly. He refused to do voiceover for this game.
Huh.
He said he does not enjoy doing voiceover, and therefore he refused to do it. So they are reusing voiceover that he had recorded for prior games, and they are taking his live commentary from actual UFC fights and repurposing it inside the game.
Interesting.
How does that work? How do you not pick up like the crowd and everything? Like you have no clean voiceover when you're doing that.
You would have. I mean, it depends how they store that, but they would have a clean audio take.
Well, you would think his mic would still pick up the people around him.
Yeah, but you're still gonna. I mean,
crowd roaring and.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna have that in the game anyway. So
I guess
it's not ideal, but it's better than not having.
I've never heard of anything like that being done in the game.
Better than not having
before.
Anything at all.
Or you just hire another announcer.
But it's Joe Rogan.
But you're right. But that shows how big Joe Rogan is when it comes to.
I mean, they even replaced John Madden, but they don't have anybody to replace Joe Rogan.
Well, I mean, think about that. They did replace John Madden.
Yeah, because there's other football announcers that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess matters is really the important word there.
Or that like a football fan, even if you don't, I mean, look, it's not like, by the time they replaced John Madden, it's not like football fans were clamoring to hear what John Madden thought about things.
Yeah.
It was more of a, John Madden would say some weird thing and people would go, what? And then like you just kind of move on.
Yeah.
Whereas like with MMA, with UFC, it's like Joe Rogan is the voice.
He is, for sure.
So
yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say before we move on from this game is I feel like there's still never been a great MMA game. They're always way too complicated and convoluted, and that's been the case when other publishers held the license. I think Crave was like the first publisher to own the UFC license. And
I
actually,
have the first UFC game on
for Dreamcast. It was that, in my opinion, that was the best one.
It was up there.
It was simple. It didn't overcomplicate it, but it was deep enough that it still felt like MMA.
But the other problem is like you're trying to simulate one of the most complex things in the. I mean, the moment to moment stuff that happens in an MMA match is so intricate.
It really is.
And they're trying to capture all that, and it's really hard. And like you have the question of like, well, do you make it automatic or do you make it player control? Like, there's so many ways to go about it. And I feel like even this far into it, EA is still kind of figuring out how to do this.
It actually reminds me, the last game in this series from EA reminded me a lot of Skate, where you had to use the analog sticks with precision. Mm-hmm. It's like one move is a quarter circle with the stick, another move is a half circle, another move is 2/3 of a circle. And it was just, to me, it was way too complicated. And I am a big MMA fan. I used to work with Spike and with UFC. Back when I worked at Viacom, we ran UFC's official website. Yep. And we did like the whole UFC 100 big rollout for the 100th pay-per-view and built their site from the ground up. And so I dealt with those guys and dealt with The Ultimate Fighter, which was Spike's TV show before they sold it off to Fox Sports 1.
Well, then there were rumors for a while that UFC was going to buy G4.
Yeah, there was, which makes no sense whatsoever.
They wanted
what they're going to do is they're going to turn it into their own, and they use that as leverage against us at Spike. They basically, I think they just floated that out there. They were never seriously considering like buying G4. They just wanted better terms from Spike for the next contract.
That was their ideal outcome. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I can't remember. I think ultimately they ended up working out the deal or whatever.
They did, yeah.
And then Spike ended up losing UFC, and now they have Bellator and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, my point being is that I love UFC. I'm a huge MMA guy. I got the very first ever UFC pay-per-view. And from the perspective of someone who's a hardcore fan, I still don't feel like they've got it right. So I'm going to give this a chance. I keep giving UFC games, MMA games a chance. I just don't feel like they found the sweet spot of it yet. But maybe this one will be the one to do it. And then lastly, Anthem. Think it's coming out this year?
No.
Pactor seems to think that it is.
I think it'll probably make end of fiscal, but I'm expecting to play this in March.
Yeah.
March 2019.
I was surprised how confident Pactor was about this. But he did say that he had no insider information that was leading him to say that.
I do know that pretty much everyone in all BioWare team, all around the continent, are all hands on deck.
They're all working on it.
I mean, I would not say no chance it's coming out this year. I mean, I think it's certainly possible, but I just...
Pactor was saying because he did not feel there would be a Star Wars game ready,
I'm sure
EA really needs this game.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I don't know if it's good to want things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean because look, you're torn between the idea that they need this. They need something to fill that Star Wars slot, this kind of space sci-fi sort of slot. Even though Star Wars isn't sci-fi. But it's kind of got that sci-fi feel, and it's got a little Iron Man to it. It fills that sort of fantastical niche that Star Wars also would.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I get that you'd want, but at the same time, after the Mass Effect Andromeda debacle, you cannot rush another BioWare game to market.
Yeah.
This thing has to be just rock solid when it comes out.
Right out of the gate, it has to be rock solid. Because I think what publishers are finding out is, the whole get it out and patch it thing, with social media the way it is anymore, that just doesn't work.
Everything moves too fast. People move on too fast.
Once all the memes are out there and the loops and everything, it's too late.
Yeah, and no one will think of Andromeda as anything else. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you fixed Andromeda.
Yeah, it's too late.
The damage was done.
Yep.
You cannot come out of the gate.
You can't do that with a brand new IP at that.
Right.
So, yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. I would really be shocked if this comes out this year. I would really love for it to come out this year.
Yeah, it'd be great if it came out this year.
I am really freaking excited for this game.
I think when the chips are down, BioWare particularly, and I think EA as well probably, are going to prioritize getting it right over getting it out.
They both learned a really hard lesson with Andromeda.
I would hope so.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's EA. That's what I'm saying. That's all we know about EA going into the year. And in that way, they are a lot like Bethesda, where they're just kind of keeping their cards close to the vest.
I'm sure there's some big Plants vs. Zombie announcement waiting in the wings.
Well, there's tons of mobile stuff that EA does. That's where EA makes a lot of its money, in all honesty, is off mobile stuff.
Well, they've been doing
Sims
they've been doing pretty well with the Star Wars mobile stuff.
Yeah.
Galaxy of Heroes does well. Galaxy of Heroes is pretty fun.
Yep. Yeah. Let's move on. We're going to talk about Ubisoft next. Ubisoft, on the flip side, has tons of stuff that's announced already.
They always do.
Yep. Here's this big X factor. Actually, there's a couple X factors. But the biggest X factor to me is Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier.
Not a chance in hell this year. Not.
The way I look at it is the game has been talked about, developed. It's gone through 2 incarnations at this point.
Yeah, a lot of iterations, but I think they said at E3 last year, basically, we're kind of starting now. This is, there's no gameplay loop even yet.
Yeah.
So there's no way this thing's out this
They do have a tech demo, though, of the game already. It is playable already in some way, shape, or form.
It has a long way to go.
A very crude way, shape, and form, I might add. I would put this coming out this year at 25%, 20% maybe.
I'd go
lower.
10%. 10% in another universe.
I think at this point we should just be happy that we know it's coming.
Yeah, the idea that they're confident
it was
enough
revived
that they showed it again.
Yeah. And we should be thankful for this awesome CG too. In my opinion, probably, we never did a best trailer of 2017.
Yeah.
This probably would have been.
This would have been
my pick.
Yeah.
To me, this was the best trailer I saw last year. Although some of the Blizzard stuff with Overwatch would certainly be right up there, buttoned up against it. But I think this is probably my favorite.
This one is helped by just the pedigree of this game and its kind of almost mythic like journey.
It also completely flips the script. I mean, this really isn't Beyond Good and Evil. If you remember the first game, like it was nothing like this.
No, I mean it has the kind of the anthropomorphic animals and the sort of French comic book futurism.
But the tone of it,
the tone is a little different.
Beyond Good and Evil was rated G pretty much.
Oh, Beyond Good and Evil had some dark shit in it. Though.
It did, but
if you thought it was more subtextual, it wasn't there was a lot of swearing in this and violence. But again, like this is also coming from the same sort of place as stuff like Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which I love that stuff. That movie was not particularly good.
I watched it on a plane. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Right. I will say this.
The best thing I can say about it.
The first 5 minutes of that movie where they show how the space station kind of grows into the city, like that's probably the best thing Luc Besson has ever done in his entire career.
Some of the effects were pretty good in that.
The effects are great. That's one of the, I'll admit, that's one of the 4K discs I bought. Because
isn't that funny how when you get like a new format, like how it affects what you buy for it?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really care if this movie is good or not. It's like when I got a 3D TV, I bought Avatar. Well, yeah. It's like, that's just what you're going to buy.
Well, the 3, because it was Amazon had like a buy 3 for the price of 2 thing or something for 4K discs. So I bought that, and I bought The Martian, Ridley Scott, visuals.
Yeah.
And I bought Pacific Rim.
Oh, wow.
So three visionary visual guys, directors, doing their visionary stuff really well.
At the highest level.
At the highest level of digital filmmaking.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't even really like The Martian all that much. No. But I'm just like, you know what? It's gorgeous. And I refuse to own Prometheus. So that's my other Ridley Scott option.
In 4K, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 4K.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to Avatar. This is another game probably not coming out this year.
No. Well, because the movie's not coming out till...
When is the movie coming out?
Right now, it's December 2019 is the
so this is a 2019 game?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're shooting right now, back-to-back Avatar 2 and 3.
Aren't there like another 7 movies coming or something?
He has 4 sequels planned, and he's shooting 2 and 3 are back-to-back productions. Actually, I think they might be simultaneous production. It would be like Lord of the Rings, where they're shooting...
Right.
Like, they're shooting 2 today, this scene is from 2, and then this scene in the afternoon is from 3, and so there's no division between the production. But I think Cameron said that it's like basically 2 and 3 are gonna happen, and 4 and 5, like the options there. Like he has scripts for them.
They're gonna happen.
I don't know. Like we'll see.
You think the next one could bomb?
I don't know if it'll bomb. But I don't think it's gonna make $2 billion again. Well, I think the ship is because the thing about
that's the whole fool me once thing.
Right. Well, the Avatar thing is like it's a ride. You know, no one remembers the story particularly well because it wasn't about the characters of the story or any of that stuff that movies are usually about. Yeah. It was about putting 3D glasses on, and getting on a roller coaster through Pandora.
And it was pretty good at that.
It did. It was great. Yeah. Technologically very impressive. You watch it now, it looks like a cartoon, but like at the time, almost 9 years ago, I think it was.
That's hard to believe. Wow.
It was technologically amazing.
It's really been a decade since Avatar came out.
And it's going to be technologically amazing again. Cameron is supposedly shooting it in 60 frames a second, which is not something any theater in the country can show.
Right.
But he's like he paid to upgrade stuff for 3D for Avatar, so they might do the same thing for some select theaters for this. We'll see how the audience responds to that, because the high frame rate experiment with the Hobbit did not go very well.
Yeah.
However, like I said, high frame rate for film, not particularly useful. High frame rate for a roller coaster, very useful.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're really going to embrace the idea that this is basically an experience, a ride, not a film,
right?
Like 60 frames a second might be the way to go.
It makes sense.
It might, in the terms of like if you really want people to be on Pandora, and considering there were people who were thinking about killing themselves because they were never going to be able to visit Pandora when they saw the first film, there were articles about that. There was like post-Avatar depression syndrome. This is a real thing. Google that.
Wow, that's insane.
That could be, it could actually be beneficial this time in terms of like getting people into the world from a 60 kind of almost a VR perspective. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it would almost be like a VR experience in a theater, like as a 60 frames a second kind of thing. Because I hate high frame rate stuff. I think films don't need that. It looks ridiculous. But if you're going to do this thing as more of like a, you're almost as like a circle vision, like theme park ride, which is what Avatar's strength is, it might work. I don't know. The key is going to be how much money the studio is willing to shell out to pay for theaters to upgrade to the ability to be able to show it. And this game, much like the Avatar game Ubisoft made for the first game, first movie will probably come out and disappear, and no one will ever remember it again.
It wasn't great.
No, I played it more than I like to admit, but like I never.
I finished it.
I didn't finish it, but I played like 15 hours or something. I played a lot of it. I did like the world.
It wasn't bad.
It
wasn't great.
I don't like Avatar. I thought it was boring and
I did like the movie.
Everything was I thought Fern Gully did it better.
But I think watching it without 3D is a big difference.
Yeah, but I watched it in 3D. It was fine. But I was like, it's nothing. It's cotton candy in terms of everything except the tech. But I did like the world, and I liked kind of the planet, and I got the little book that kind of explained all the plants and the animals and stuff, and I thought that was cool. And so I liked running around in it in the game, but the game itself was not particularly compelling. I don't expect the new one to be particularly different.
I don't either. Although they have had a lot of time to develop it.
Ubisoft has changed a lot since then. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the studio's already been working on it for like a year plus, and it's still got another year and a half to work on it, so it should be... They can't say that the game stinks because they didn't have enough time to create it.
Well, also Cameron seems to trust Ubisoft and thinks they know what he's after.
And they trust him too much.
Yeah, well, don't
remember
put
that long-winded.
Don't put him on stage for another 20 minutes at E3. But like, the fact that he's willing to work with them on that level, maybe it'll help.
Yeah, trust is big because he doesn't want stuff to leak out.
Yes.
So if he trusts them to be able to give them assets and give them the plot and all that kind of stuff, it can make a big difference in the game.
And as I understand, there is like an Avatar wing of that Ubisoft studio. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was Montreal or something. But there is a wing like basically nobody is allowed to go into.
It's massive, I believe. Is
it massive?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's a section where you can't walk into because
that's a good sign.
Because that's where the Avatar
stuff is. Next up, Far Cry 5. We've talked about this game ad nauseum on GameFace. We probably don't need to say much more. Plenty of marketing's been out for the game. The controversy's come and gone. Everyone's kind of settled in at this point. What's the release date
now?
I can look it up real quick.
It didn't slip out of fiscal, did it? It just ended up in March or something?
I believe so. I love having this PC here to check stuff like this. March 27th.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah, so it comes out on March 27th. So not too much longer to wait. Again, as you mentioned, it was delayed, which was kind of a surprise to me. It seemed like it's pretty far along. And Ubisoft has been letting people play the crap out of this, particularly the YouTubers and the influencers. Essentially new gameplay that's going up almost every day if you hunt around for it. That hasn't quelled my excitement for it. I'm really pumped up for this game. The mix of the Far Cry design, which I already love and have loved for a long time, with this setting and the consequences and all that that kind of are organically imparted into the game because of it, I'm all over this game. I think it's going to be great. It doesn't look especially good, especially now that a lot of the gameplay has come out. Like there was this one mission that we carried the other day where you have to go collect like cow balls.
Oh yeah.
As one of the missions, and the cows
are female, by the way. It's bull balls.
Bull balls, right?
Because it's Montana.
It's a sow, isn't it? A female cow called a sow.
A heifer.
Or a heifer?
There's a lot of different words for livestock.
And it all means something, but
and there's and a steer is different from a bull, and I don't remember.
But anyway, graphically, this game.
Anyone who thought there wasn't going to be a Rocky Mountain oyster thing and a game set in Montana is crazy. Like, I don't know why everybody was reacting like, "Oh my god, I can't!" But it's like that's culture.
Well, a lot of people will be upset. Will get testy over the fact that you're harming an animal. If that's what they're going to get testy about with this game, boy, they're in for a ride. But I'm really jacked up for this. I'm excited for it. It's probably the game I'm most anticipating in Q1 of the year.
I would agree with that, other than Shadow of the Colossus, which doesn't really count because it's a remake.
Sure.
No, in terms of original content, this is probably the top of my list.
I'm pretty pumped up for it. So don't need to spend too much time on that. Everyone's seen it, heard about it. We've talked about it a ton of times on GameFace. Splinter Cell, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 5 years since the last Splinter Cell.
God, I thought it was more than that.
2013 was when Blacklist came out.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Here, I can check.
I swear that came out when I was still on XPlay. Maybe I'm thinking about that other one.
Splinter Cell Blacklist.
2013.
August 20th, 2013.
Maybe I didn't play Blacklist. What was
I love that. I love how you can bring up the PC on the...
What was the one before that? The first one that kind of went off the usual formula.
That one was Chaos Theory?
No, it was the first one where he was, where it played a little more like Tomb Raider. You know what I mean? There was the co-op to it.
Oh, I don't remember.
You remember?
I know what you're talking
I think
about.
it began
yeah.
with a C. I don't have. I forgot to put my Twitch password in again. I don't remember it, so I don't have the chat on my phone.
Yeah.
So I can't, because I know someone knows. Splinter Cell begins with a C, I think.
Someone in the chat will mention it, I'm sure.
Because it was the one where he goes
Conviction.
Conviction, that's right.
Yeah.
Because it was gonna be the where he was arrested or something, and then it came out, it was completely different from the demo they showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been 5 years since this one.
Wow.
So man, they're due.
Is that Crackdown? The picture down the bottom there?
Oh yeah.
Man, it looks terrible.
Yeah. No, Matt, that's its art style.
That looks awful.
It really does. So what do you think the chances are? I mean, Ubisoft does just drop games out of nowhere a lot of times.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would think either the big fall game is going to be either this or Watch Dogs 3.
Watch Dogs 3, huh?
Yeah, I think it's about time for Watch Dogs.
Well, it will have been 2 years. Do you think they can get that game done in 2 years, though?
Maybe.
They just finished DLC for that not that long ago.
I think it's different people working on it. I mean, Ubisoft is vast and infinite.
Well, here's another piece of knowledge that Pac dropped in the latest show was, you know how Ubisoft said it was delaying an unannounced game? Mm-hmm. Pac says it was Assassin's Creed. Mm. And that they were going to start going back on the yearly schedule again with Assassin's Creed. And then when this one was so well received, they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let's milk this one for a little while and do
also,
DLC.
Let's take that formula and go, don't fall into the thing that the Assassin's Creed series did originally, where you had all these different people working on it and no one ever got on the same page about what they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because that was a problem. It was you'd play Brotherhood, and Brotherhood had all these cool ideas, and you play Revelation, all those ideas were gone because it was made by
someone else
at the same time as Brotherhood, so no one was on the same page.
There was no cross-pollination.
Nobody even looked the same anymore.
Yeah.
It was and so they need consistency, they need iteration, and they need to take the stuff that worked in Origins and run with it and get some better writing in there. You made a pretty good aping of Witcher 3 with that game, and if it was better written and it was more compelling in terms of the content you're doing, you'd have something real special.
Yeah.
I think they do have something special, but they have something real special if they could bring that up. And I think that takes time, it takes iteration, it takes creative work, and that doesn't happen overnight. Give it 2 years.
I would not be surprised at all if Splinter Cell comes out this year, at all.
It feels like it's about time. Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I think Splinter Cell had fallen on hard times, though. I mean, it had gotten to the point where it was selling a third of what it was selling just 2 years prior.
I think we'll see. I think you might. I mean,
Blacklist was a little. I mean, it was different. It was more action oriented. And
so was Conviction. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was there. It was moving in that kind of.
It needed to, though.
Yeah, it did.
It was such a sterile franchise.
It was a very stiff franchise.
It was. And I love the first couple games because it was completely different, and it was purely focused on stealth.
The bump mapping.
Yeah, and concentrating on using lights and shooting out lights. At that point, it really kind of wound up Metal Gear. And but then it just kind of stayed in that rut for far too long. And I feel like Blacklist was kind of the transition game where they're just kind of really starting to figure out where they're what direction they're gonna head in. But we'll see. I would not be shocked at all if this game makes it out this year. I would
never
say
played
probably
Blacklist.
Q4. You didn't?
No, well, because it seems so much like Conviction.
It was the most action-y of all the games.
I mean, Conviction was real action-y.
Yeah.
It seemed like an iteration on that.
Yeah.
And also there was no Michael Ironside, and screw that.
Yep. Well, I don't think he'll probably ever come back.
No, he won't. But because they made Sam younger and all that stuff, and I guess they don't think he should sound like that anymore. But Michael Ironside is Sam Fisher.
I also wouldn't be surprised if the next Splinter Cell is a prequel.
Yeah.
An origin story of Sam Fisher or whatever. I mean, he has had flashbacks, obviously, in his games that kind of hinted to some of that stuff, but I wouldn't be shocked if you play as a really young Sam Fisher in the new one. Next up, Skull and Bones, which it was shown at E3. We haven't seen it since. Just basically a pirate combat MMO-y kind of game. It's not quite Sea of Thieves. It's a little more rigid than that.
A little disappointing, I thought.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that everybody wanted Black Flag and Rogue were so good, and they're just make a pirate game. Okay,
here you go.
Here's For Honor with ships. No, it's not really what we.
That is coming out this year, though. And that's
is it?
coming. Yeah, that's coming out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. And then there's The Crew 2, which I am actually really excited about.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
I did not really enjoy the first Crew all that much.
I thought The Crew, I've said it before, I'm pretty sure, but I thought The Crew was a better idea than a game.
Yeah.
I loved what they wanted to do, and they just didn't quite get there. But I also give them props for supporting that thing for forever.
They still support it.
They still put content out, and they put out like a whole cop chase thing for it like a year ago. I mean, that is a robust project they worked on. I mean, I gotta give them credit for that.
I will say this was one of the most impressive demos I saw at E3 last year. Just as far as a game that was trying new ideas and were using in some ways new tech.
Yeah. And also taking what the first game did and making it bigger and expanding it.
I mean, the first game never delivered what I thought it was going to be. This second one delivers what I thought the first game promised and then some.
And I do know you were a little skeptical that like there's all these different things. It's kind of like Steep, where it's like, okay, you've got planes and you've got motorcycles now, and you've got also cars and trucks and off-road. It's like, can you make all this good?
Yeah,
that's a lot of because a
challenge.
lot of games can't even get one of them right.
MotorStorm was one of those games that had a bunch of different disciplines. It was a racing game that had a lot of different disciplines, and now that studio's working on a new driving game too. So,
but it's cool. I mean, I love flight stuff. So, like if this turns out really well, I'd be super into the idea of being able to play one of these kind of open world car PGs, but like being able to hop in a plane when I want to.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like if you don't like a certain discipline, in some cases you do have to use a boat or a plane. But one of the parts of the demo that they showed me, there was flexibility in you choosing whether you wanted to go by land, sea, or air. So you will have some choice in what vehicles that you pilot throughout the game. I'm really excited for this. This was also delayed, but it is supposed to be coming out this year.
It was pushed to like almost E3, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like, it was a hefty push.
Yeah. Yep. The last game that is known for Ubisoft in 2018 is Starlink Battle for Atlas.
Oh, that Toys to Life.
Yep. And this game's come into pretty much everything. PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. And this is a Toys to Life thing where you build a ship, and then you use that ship in the game. Matt, do you think this is 5 years too late?
Yeah. But I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, they have said that like there's going to be a way to buy all this stuff digitally.
Yeah.
Which maybe when it comes down to it, maybe that's all it will be. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Putting out the physical toys at this point makes sense.
There's no Toys to Life franchise left at this point, is there?
Just the Amiibos, if you want to count them.
Yeah.
They're not really the same thing.
But
they're all gone.
This would be the only one.
This would be it. Yeah, Skylanders is over. Disney Infinity is over.
Lego Dimensions is done.
Lego Dimensions is done. Although they put out the last wave of things last month or 2 months ago, I think. And that fad is done.
Ubisoft is on an island here. Well, it shouldn't surprise us that much. Remember, Ubisoft played laser tag at its E3 press conference like 4 years. It was about 20 years late on that. So,
and then there's more of that stuff out again. I mean, I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, laser tag's getting big again.
Laser tag's back again. Or they're trying to make it big.
Yeah.
Again. Every like 3 years, a new like laser tag permutation shows up.
Yeah.
But last time it was like putting your phone in the gun and
right.
So
yeah, I remember. I think they came to game trailers and did a demo of that actually at one point. We always get these weird, like, fringy game things that would, like, they'd beg us, and we'd be like, nah, come on, we'll give you it all for free. Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, when laser tag came out in, like, the 80s or whatever, there was two kinds. There was laser tag. I think it was actually called, like, laser tag.
Yep.
And then there was another one called Photon.
Yep.
And I got Photon. And nobody got Photon. All my friends got laser tag. I got Photon. And I just had this gun, and I just stood around and, like, shot myself.
Fun fact, Photon was the original.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had no one to play with. I wouldn't know if it was good or not.
Laser tag looked way cooler.
It did. Well, all my friends ended up getting that one, and I got the other
one. The big problem with Photon was the Photon gun was attached to the chest piece with the little curly cord.
It was also weird, too. Like, the gun just felt awkward. Yeah. So anyway,
and laser tag had that cool commercial where it was like the future, and there's that woman, like, referee in the floating, like, Professor X chair.
Right,
like, you're out.
That's
like that thing. Yeah, remember? It was like the sport of the future.
Hell, you remember that?
Oh, I remember all of it. Television advertising worked real well on me.
Apparently. I didn't remember it until you said it, and then instantly it all started popping back into my mind. That's great. So that's it. That's Ubisoft, what we know of them for 2018 right now. We're looking at games that will actually come out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
There's probably more we don't know.
Which is, again, why I think that there's a good chance that Splinter Cell might be something that we see.
Could be Splinter Cell. There could be, maybe they'll finally mention another Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're giving up on that one. Because there's potential. I think, Ubisoft, one thing I like about them is they don't give up on stuff if it doesn't work.
No, you're right.
Like they will,
unlike EA, apparently.
Yeah, well, they know they'll take things that they know has the magic in them, and they'll be like, well, we got to find it. Like we got to figure it out. And they've done that with Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. And I still believe, even though Watch Dogs 1 and 2 are not phenomenal games, like you play those games and there's something there. There's something. I
think Watch Dogs 2 is pretty good.
Watch Dogs 2 is pretty good. It's definitely an improvement, but it's not. Yeah. It didn't make me care in the way it has to.
Yeah.
And there's a point at which I just sort of stopped playing the game and started just driving around the world because I like the world because it's where I grew up.
Yeah.
The San Francisco Bay Area, which nobody really does in these open world games, and it was super cool to be able to drive down the peninsula and go to San Jose and go back. Like, that was really cool, but after a while I just didn't care about the extreme hacksaw.
Yeah, I know, it's too broy.
It just didn't.
Yeah.
But I think there's
didn't resonate
something
with
there.
me at all.
Like, Watch Dogs can get there if they keep trying, and I think they will.
The games are actually high quality.
They are.
I mean, at least the second one was really high quality. Whether you like the theme of it.
The other thing I really hated in Watch Dogs 2 was how there were those like online missions that would kind of be spontaneously generated, and there was never any way to clear them out of your quest log. They would always just eternally generate like generic fetch quests for you to do in the I think it was purple and I'm like, bro,
that OCD,
you got to get that out of here. Like, you need to put that in another tab that I can ignore forever.
Seems so simple, but all right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Take-Two. Take-Two is really a slim lineup, as always. Mm-hmm. So obviously, Red Dead Redemption 2.
They're too busy counting the GTA 5 money.
Like, still.
What was that thing? It was, I saw some like list of like, GTA came out like 200-something weeks ago, and it's been in the top 10 all of those weeks, but like 5, and it's been like the top 5 like all but like 144 of those. I mean, it's like.
Last month, GTA Online generated the most money it ever has generated.
All this time later.
Literally a license to print money, without a doubt.
Yep.
But this year we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Probably one of the biggest games of the year, hands down. So while Take-Two doesn't have a lot of quantity, it certainly has some quality.
Oh, I don't have quantity. Just not game titles.
Just money.
Yeah.
Piles and piles of money. Plenty of quantity of that. Is there any other game you're more excited for? Or wait, what was your most anticipated game besides Shadow of the Colossus?
Shadow of the Colossus? It was Ni no Kuni 2.
Ni no Kuni 2. You're more excited for that than this, huh?
I'm a giant Studio Ghibli mark. Also, I'm more curious about Ni no Kuni 2 because I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
And like Red Dead Redemption 2, while I am excited for it, is kind of a known quantity. I mean, I know what Rockstar makes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what this is. Like.
Yeah.
It's sort of like if a new Zelda game was coming out. I'm just like, I get it. Like, I don't, that wasn't particularly true of Breath of the Wild.
It wasn't, though.
Was a very different thing.
Every once in a while, stuff happens. It's out of the ordinary.
Yeah. But like this one is like, I don't even think about this game much, really.
Because you just know it's going to be good.
I know it's coming. I know I'm going to play it.
No
I know it's going to be
quantity.
good. I know it's going to look so good. I can smell the damn dust in the air, and it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
I hope.
So Take-Two also mentioned, I think it was back in October, that a known IP is coming this year, and Pachter, in his predictions for this year,
his infinite wisdom,
says that it's Borderlands 3. I think that's probably a really safe bet.
I believe in the parlance of Wall Street, duh.
Yeah.
would be my response to that.
Gearbox trying to recover after Battleborn.
Yeah.
Which was a debacle.
So you got to go back to the sure thing, and I'd say this is indeed a sure thing.
Well, the funny thing about this game is that it was actually like really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I mean, Borderlands is kind of what video games have become now. Mm-hmm. I mean, if there's any franchise that can just slide right into the current climate in 2018,
I mean,
this is it.
It even had loot boxes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this game...
Just, you had to follow Randy Pitchford on Twitter instead of having to pay money.
Right.
Which some people may, your mileage may vary.
You may want to pay money instead of following Randy on Twitter. But it's really crazy to look back and see how this game got it right way before anybody else figured it out. Again, I've talked about it before. I'm not the world's biggest Borderlands fan. I'm not a fan of just bullet sponges where you shoot something a billion times and watch the...
Neither am I, but I am a big fan of shooting something and seeing a number pop out of it.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is, but like it's real good.
I think that goes all the way back to our childhood RPGs that we played when we were kids.
And I like the world. I like 2 a lot better than 1.
I'd agree with that. I played 2 a lot more than I played 1.
I didn't play 2 too much because I played it more when I got it on PC, because the problem with it because I have that Plasma. The Plasma was pretty new when this came out, and the bright white quest step dialogue in the right side of the screen was image retaining like crazy, and so the quest text for this game, like you see like open cabinet there,
it stayed on your screen.
It was like you could just see lines of like text on my screen for months after I played this game. Because I played the game for like 100 hours. I mean, it's not like I didn't play it a lot, but I could have played it twice that. I really enjoyed it. I could have gone through it on all the DLC, and I just didn't because I was worried about damaging my television. I ended up going through it when it came out on PC instead. When I got
it. It's a grindy game.
It is.
At least the first 2 are very grindy.
It is very grindy, but I like the characters. I love Claptrap. I know people don't like Claptrap very much, but
how could you not like Claptrap?
There's a lot of Claptrap haters, man. But I love it. I love Claptrap, partly because one of the group, I don't play with them anymore because everybody kind of went off and got their own lives. But the group I used to play online with all the time, the youngest of them was this kid from Arizona, and he sounds exactly like Claptrap.
Oh, really?
Like his attitude, the jokes, his sense of humor. I mean, he is Claptrap. And when Borderlands 1 came out, because I played it early because they sent us, the review copies, and I went online like the first night I played. I'm like, guys, wait till you hear this character in this new, when we played the co-op on this game, and it came up and everyone was like, what the hell? Like it was like everyone knew instantly what I was talking about. And of course the one guy's like, what, really? You think that's me? I'm like, bro. So I have
this game will sell very, very well.
I have a big soft spot for Borderlands 3. I think it's a good value for the money, and they always the DLC is always great.
In fact, looking at between just this and Red Dead Redemption 2, it might be a good time to buy some stock in Take-Two.
Yeah, but there are worse ideas, I've
and
heard.
then conceivably, hopefully, you get GTA 6 next year. That party may just keep on raging.
There's no... nothing like there's nothing like a Take-Two party, because a Take-Two party don't stop.
There's something to say about buying Take-Two stock before GTA is announced. Mm-hmm. Because once it gets announced, I guarantee you it's going to pop up. So just...
Yeah, and it may not be this year, but...
By the way, this is for amusement purposes only.
Right.
I am not telling you to buy Take-Two stock. I don't want to hear from one of you guys in like a month saying I went and bought it and now it dropped like $5 a share. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because they might load GTA 6 down with loot boxes. We don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
And then it'll bomb. No, it won't.
No, it won't.
Doesn't matter.
That's the one franchise you can do whatever you want with loot boxes and it won't make a difference.
Yeah, it'd be like GTA 6. It's $60.
Suddenly everybody loves loot boxes.
And you have to ship us your dog. And like it'll still sell 5 million copies.
Suddenly everyone loves loot boxes. The only other game that Take-Two has announced, other than obviously like the next WWE 2K whatever and NBA 2K whatever, is Project 1v1. That is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter from Gearbox that has card battling elements in it.
Okay.
They have not released any footage of the game. In fact, they didn't really announce the game. Gearbox put up a website for the game. People found it, and then people reported on it. And so Gearbox still hasn't really said much. There was supposed to be like an open beta or a closed beta coming up soon. But it's one of those things that just kind of appeared with a flash in the pan and then went away. But it is scheduled for release this year. So I'm assuming we'll get more information on that as well coming up pretty soon.
I wonder where we haven't seen...
actually any information.
We haven't seen a Brothers in Arms from them in a long time.
No. And I don't think you will.
No?
No.
For a long time, I'd heard that they still had a couple more of those on their contract with Ubisoft.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd be shocked. Because remember the last one ended up being like a total debacle. They showed like a trailer for it.
Well, it never came out.
It
was basically Inglourious Bastards.
The trailer looked awesome, but it just never came out. So I don't know. It depends on what the contract says.
Like Furious 6 or something?
Maybe the contract is, if you make another one, we get first right to publish it.
I don't know.
We'll see. But But that's it for Take-Two. Let's move on to Square Enix. As far as putting the show together, this was the publisher that surprised me the most, Matt, as far as how many games the publisher has on the docket. It looks like a big year for Square Enix. The first one we'll talk about is the Avengers project, which is, if it actually comes out this year, would be one of my more anticipated games of 2018.
I don't really expect it, but
we got this first teaser trailer early last year?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think enough time has passed, although maybe you might have something ready for next year.
Maybe we see it at E3?
Maybe, like a teaser
trailer,
or something.
maybe? Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing. We got Avengers Infinity War coming up in May, but you have Avengers 4 the following May. So if you get it out next spring,
That
you're still...
sounds like the ticket.
You're still set. You're synergizing quite well.
I am excited to see an Avengers game made by Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah?
I am really, really excited for that.
Yep. I dig what Crystal Dynamics does. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, really, this license has been in the hands of incompetent fools for far too long.
Yeah. With the exception of Gazillion.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. But I'm really pumped for that. I agree. Probably won't see it this year. Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm. Did they admitted this existed?
They still have not admitted
No?
it. No. It's still all based on people overseeing someone on a subway
cryptic
train.
tweet recently?
Yeah,
though,
I mean, there's been some things that have hinted towards it.
Yeah.
What would you want to see in the next Tomb Raider, Matt? As far as after what we've seen,
apparently shadows. I don't know. I mean, I know the reboot and Rise are kind of divisive, but
are they really?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that hate those games.
Really?
Think that Rise was a terrible game.
Wow.
I'm
shocked to hear that.
I really like the reboot, and
I like both of them.
I like Rise even more.
Yeah, they're great.
I think it's exactly what I want Tomb Raider to be at this point.
Yeah.
And I just
do the detractors just want it to go back to the old goofy Tomb Raider
pretty
stuff?
much.
Wow.
Or they used to be
I'm
skill
glad
based.
they're not listening to them.
They used to be skill based jumping games, and now they're just like Uncharted with an ice pick kind of thing.
The Rise of the Tomb Raider was pretty challenging at points, though. I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I've played the reboot of Tomb Raider. I think 3 separate times, 100%. I played through Rise of the Tomb Raider twice. I really like them, so I just want more. Keep evolving it in the direction Rise of the Tomb Raider did. I wouldn't mind. More of a globe-trotting kind of thing. If it, not stuck in one space all the time. Because there's a little bit of that in Rise, but I am more interested in kind of a section here, but a big section, maybe 3 large sections in different parts of the world that kind of take you around the place. Where as opposed to kind of the original game, which the reboot game, which was all on that one island. I think Rise kind of moved in the direction of you can kind of go around the world a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I love that idea, and I'd like to see it be a little more varied in setting.
I'd agree with that.
Would be what I'd say.
But then at the same time, having it in that one location, it does kind of give it this air of oppression and
yeah.
But it does kind of wear on you too.
But it's you're still kind of telling the story of her kind of coming into her own as sort of this
becoming a woman,
archaeological tomb raiding badass.
Yeah.
And I would like to see I guess Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I mean, maybe it's not going to be. I'm sure they're going to continue on the Trinity. Whether she's got that organization, kind of her own personal Hydra. In the form of Trinity, sort of, who's the organization that killed her father and wants the thing he was after and stuff. But I'd like to see them kind of make it a more what it's like to be Lara Croft in the prime of her career kind of thing. She's over here, she found this thing, and now she's got to go over here, and now you got to go, something happened here, and it's got to fight off Yetis or something.
Yeah.
Whatever you wanted to make it, but I'd like it to be maybe a little more episodic would be kind of what I'd be interested in. It doesn't have to be a giant epic story every time. It could just be moments in the life of Lara Croft, kind of finding cool things and being cool places and continually knocking down relics that are thousands of years old, because apparently if she comes to explore your ruins, say goodbye to your ruins.
Well, your ruins are going to be ruined.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's next? Dragon Quest Builders 2. To me, one of the more underrated games from Generation 8 that probably deserve more sales than it actually got. The first one's getting ready to come out for Switch right now. Dragon Quest, that came out, what was it, May of last year in Japan, and then it came out a little later here.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to this one.
They haven't promoted the sequel much. In fact, what we're watching right now is the only gameplay that exists of the sequel, and it was just a part of some goofy stream that Square Enix did at one point. Cross between action RPG and Minecraft, or Dragon Quest and Minecraft, if you will. It is coming to PS4 and Switch, not Xbox One or PC right now, just for PS4 and Switch, as it is announced right now. No release date for Japan or the West yet, but it is supposed to be coming to the West this year at some point. Left Alive. That is the new game from former Team Kojima members. Obviously not the entire team, as some of them went on to his new studio.
This thing.
This is kind of shrouded in mystery still. We still don't know that much. There's just this one trailer that's come out of it so far. So we don't have a lot of details on it, but it is scheduled for this year. But if considering the team is made up of former Kojima developers, you may not want to hold your breath for this one to come out this year. If they learn from the master, if they learn anything from the master, it's that we'll get it done when we get it done. But it certainly has a unique style. I like what I've seen of it so far, but I would be surprised if it actually does make it out this year at any point. Then there's Dissidia Final Fantasy. That's coming out very soon.
That's the end of this month.
Yeah, like 2 weeks it's coming out, which is an arena brawler with Final Fantasy characters. It was in the arcade first in Japan. Now it's coming to PS4 exclusive. You have not been especially excited for this so far, Matt.
No. I mean, I'm not a big arena fighting. It's just I just generally find those to be messier more than anything else. Like Gundam Versus had that problem, and really Virtual Own did to some degree. I mean, Virtual Own is probably the best of those to me. It had a precision that a lot of the others don't have. And I played Dissidia on the PSP, both of them, and they're fun. They're fun little games, but like, I don't expect this to be
game is
anything that sets my world on fire. Also, I don't really care about the characters from Final Fantasy. Like,
sacrilege.
Like once you pass Final Fantasy VI, I'm kind of out.
Yeah.
Like.
But look, there are characters from the first handful of Final Fantasy games in the game. And it is, if you actually watch how the game is played, it is different. It's not just like any other fighting game. And it has summons.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, it looks like I recognize it as Dissidia. I mean, it's the third game in the series. They're not reinventing the wheel here. It just has really good graphics compared to the other two.
Right. Yeah. So that's come out in a couple of weeks, and that is PS4 only. Next up, Lost Sphere, which is a semi-sequel to I Am Setsuna from Tokyo RPG Factory, which is not newly formed now. They've been around for a couple of years. This studio, by the way, cranks them out. It's created 2 massive JRPGs, literally in the span of like 3 years. So you can't argue with the output. What did you think of I Am Setsuna? Did you ever get to play it?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little expensive for what it was.
I'd agree with that.
But I mean, it is what it said.
It's a classic RPG, turn-based RPG.
And it's like if it had the production values that kind of set it above sort of the usual like RPG Maker thing you'd get if you wanted to scratch that itch, and it was nice to see something like that.
But I think to your point, though, not enough to rationalize what they're asking for it. Because there are so many games like this out there now that you can get for like nothing.
Right. And I still feel like it hasn't dropped in price acceptably.
No, it really hasn't. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I will say, if you're looking for that old school turn-based JRPG to scratch that itch, this should be a great game to do that. I Am Setsuna was great for that. The other thing I would say, too, is that I Am Setsuna was short compared to most games in that genre. And based upon how long it took them to create this one, I wouldn't be surprised if this one isn't much longer than I Am Setsuna.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, in the end, I think I preferred Cosmic Star Heroine, which was maybe not as impressive from the production value side, but I think it captured what it was homaging better.
Yep.
But these are pretty cool. Like, I probably won't buy this one full price, I guess would be what I'd say. Now that I kind of know what I'm looking at.
Yep. And then the last game from Square Enix is Fear Effect Sedna, new Fear Effect game, old franchise from the PlayStation 1 era.
Yep.
There aren't many of those left to revive at this point that are worth reviving.
Oh, there's a couple.
Yeah.
Where the hell is Colony Wars?
Yeah.
Jerks.
I just take a new Destruction Derby. I'd be all over that. You could
That'd be
probably
cool.
you could make it for cheap and sell it for $15 or whatever. I'd buy it. But
Armored Core.
I'm guessing most of the people watching GameFace have never played a Fear Effect, and maybe some have heard of it. But
Jumping Flash.
yeah,
Like, I'll sit here and list PS1 games you should bring back all fucking day.
that you should bring back. You mean like a franchise that you would
do
want to see
do
a
a new one, yeah.
Yeah. Remasters aren't going to work so well for the PS1.
No, like those. I mean, man, that is like you put something from the PS1 era, and you're just like, I don't even know what I'm looking. It's like
tough.
a Rorschach blot test or something.
It's tough. Yeah. So that's Square Enix. As you can see, Square Enix has one of the biggest lineups from any third-party publisher for 2018 as of right now. Here's another one that has a huge lineup: Bandai Namco. This is something I discovered setting up for this show. Bandai Namco is the publisher on Sifted that has the most games.
Total period.
Right. I was shocked by that. But when you start thinking about it, like it puts out a
put a lot
ton of video games. Lots of them are just Naruto this, Dragon Ball that, One Piece this, One Piece that. But the fact of the matter is, it cranks out a lot of content.
A lot of pieces.
Yeah.
One Piece.
And some of them don't take that long, but some of them do. And one that has taken a long time to come out is Ace Combat 7.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we've been waiting for this game for way too long at this point.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if
it's planes. What are you doing?
I'm wondering if its focus on VR has been one of the things that's really held it back.
That could be.
Although it seems that Bandai Namco has kind of downplayed the whole VR thing over the last 6 months.
Well, they did a little bit, but it's like originally I think it was because it was going to have a VR mode.
Yeah.
And then, like, based on feedback, they decided to make the whole thing VR capable.
Well, that explains it.
So that was probably what happened. It was like people were like, "Oh, it's just a mode. I wanted to play the whole thing," and they're like, "Oh, okay." So it sounds like they listened to feedback and said, "Okay, the campaign will be VR as well."
Hopefully, as long as it has the goofy cutscenes and story and everything.
Wouldn't be Ace Combat.
Exactly. Like, I would not want this series to have like a really
no.
good, coherent plot. It just wouldn't be Ace Combat.
No, they'd have to go dance with the angels.
There's other games for that, Matt. We don't need that from Ace Combat.
Go play Ace Combat 6 if you haven't, or at least watch the cutscenes on YouTube, because it's one of the most like batshit crazy, like, I mean, it's like you just wonder what they were after. I mean, it's like it's so weird, and it's trying to kind of have like this sort of emotional, sort of like introspective story in places, but it's like written by someone who's never written anything. It's almost
like they just put in like a Mad Lib or
it's
something.
like The Room almost, where it's like clearly they think like there's like a running thing where like because there's a country called Emeria.
Yeah, right. Yeah, why they just call it America?
Because it takes place in the Ace Combat world. There's
right.
a whole different world where this all takes place, where no one owns plane models. Apparently, everyone just sells each other F-16s all day.
Right.
I don't know. They all came up with the exact same planes we did, but just with a different
in
world.
an alternate universe.
Yeah, and so there's a country called a peace-loving, liberty-loving country called Emeria.
Yeah.
And they're invaded by what is essentially the Soviet Union, and they lose the invasion. Like they get taken over, and like the story of the game is about trying to take Emeria back from these horrible Soviet people or whatever. And one of the
Roviet Union.
Yeah, and so like there's a lot of scenes of like the story is not really told through the pilots and the plane stuff. The story is mostly told by people on the ground, refugees, and like people who are in the cities being attacked, and one of the Soviet equivalent like commandants or whatever who like isn't he used to be an ace pilot, but he got hurt, and so he can't fly anymore, but he knows it's wrong. It's a weird world in which you can basically take over a country with just air power.
Yeah,
like you don't actually need to like send in the tanks.
You need like 5 F-15s, like you're good. Yeah.
Like for those who don't know, you cannot hold a location without infantry. Like that is you need people on the ground to do that.
Yeah.
But so they take over and like they sort of move their guys in to sort of start running the country, and like so. But like people keep the Amerians are like refuse to be like kept down, and like there's a running gag where like. It's not supposed to be a gag. It's supposed to be touching or like inspiring, but it's like that the Amerians have this their standard phrase for when like they want to tell you to fuck off is "Go dance with the angels, mister." And so like there's all these things where people are saying that, and like one of the big like triumphant moments is when one of the pilots says that to the other enemy pilot, and you're just like, this does not have the weight that you think it does. Game like this is.
I mean, that's the plot from those games in a nutshell, isn't
right?
It?
It's just, but it's just amazing, and like I think it was Ace Combat 5, like, had that Puddle of Mud song, Blurry, as their main theme for reasons no one has ever been able to adequately explain. And there's this whole thing where there's the Rosgrees Squadron, which is, like, based on a legend of a demon in the same universe. And there's, like, a period early on in the game where it seems like the pilots on your side are, like, theorizing as to whether the enemy Rosgrees Squadron might actually be demons. But then later it's clear that they don't think that, but it's like the translation was so weird that there's a period where everybody's just standing around telling each other demon legends for like a couple of levels.
Yeah.
They're so strange, and I love them to death, and I can't wait for Ace Combat 7.
Next up, Code Vein. The closest thing you're probably going to get to a new Souls game in 2018. It's basically anime cross
Is there any kind of like
cross with it's really closer to Bloodborne than it is Souls.
A little bit. I mean, is there any kind of indication of when in the schedule this is, or is this year?
Code Vein?
Yeah.
Let me take a quick look.
Is there a release date for this yet?
I don't think there's an official one, but I can look real quick. Code Vein, nope, just 2018.
Just 2018?
Yeah, no hard date yet. But it is this year. And it should be. They've put out tons of gameplay, tons of trailers. At this point, it's coming down the home stretch as far as this marketing plan is concerned. Are you excited for this, Matt? Are you going to play it?
I am not particularly excited for it, but I probably will play it.
Why are you not excited for it?
Because it's anime.
It is kind of the faster paced
anime vampire crap, and that's always stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
I like Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
That's one of the first anime I ever really enjoyed.
This ain't Vampire Hunter D, though.
Yeah.
This is more like, I don't know, Blood the Last Vampire, or some kind of like, I don't know. This is going to be very hard for me. It's going to be weird with the bad dubbing and kind of just, I'm hoping it's going to be fun to play enough that I can ignore the art style and the setting. Cause
I bet this game does pretty well, though.
I don't know.
I think they put that dog whistle out there with the
Souls
Souls thing.
I think the Souls fans are not anime fans to a large degree. I don't think it'll do tremendously well, but it might scratch the Bloodborne itch for people.
I think it absolutely will.
We'll see. It's not something I'm, and the other thing, of course, is Souls fans, myself included, are extremely skeptical of anyone else trying to do the Souls thing.
Yeah.
That isn't From Software. Even From Software itself. Like, there's an acknowledged A team and a B team internally there. Yeah. So the idea that someone else is trying to do that, like, it raises your curiosity, but the skepticism's there too. And if it's good, I think it will be acknowledged as such. But that's a tall order. These games are hard to get right.
It is coming from the same publisher.
That doesn't mean
Bandai
anything.
Namco should know.
No, that doesn't mean anything.
You don't think?
No, I don't think it has any relevance that they're being published by the same people. Like, they don't. It's too. The reason the Souls games work is too ground into the DNA. Like, it doesn't matter. Like they'll know what it's supposed to look like, maybe, but how it feels, that's a different story. And
or maybe they're consulting with From on it, though.
I don't think they would be. Like, I just, as far as anyone can tell, this is just sort of, we're making it. We're going to try to make you think it's a Souls game, and hopefully enough people buy into it before anybody hears about it. I mean, it's not impossible to make a good Souls-alike
really
without being From. I mean, The Surge was entirely adequate for what it was.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different setting. It was a sci-fi one, which I thought was, set it apart. And it was way better than that same team's first game on the subject, which was Lords of the Fallen. That sequel still hasn't come out. I noticed.
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah.
So my skeptic alarm is very heightened on this game, but I'm always on the lookout for another Souls game. The question is, can anybody get it done? Also, what the hell is From Software doing? They gave us that tease at the Game Awards. Who knows? Who knows what they got in the back pocket?
I mean, it looks like Bloodborne too. I mean, most
Maybe.
people, I think, feel that that's
Tenchu.
what it is, or Tenchu. But the tone of that doesn't match Tenchu to me.
No, but
unless they're gonna just flip it all around.
I mean, they could. I mean, it's not like Tenchu. I don't think Tenchu purists are numerous enough to really worry about offending. But because look, if Code Vein came out like alongside Dark Souls Remastered, game over. Like, I'm playing Dark Souls Remastered if I got the itch to play a Dark Souls game. If this comes out later in the year and there's nothing equivalent to it, I think it might have a pretty good shot.
Next up, Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Striker. Your favorite genre, the arena battler.
Yeah.
Online, I think 6 players at a time battling it out. I'm sure this trailer will tell us exactly how many players are in it.
Sure.
Code Vein, by the way, is also coming out for PC. It's PC, PS4, and Xbox One. This game, same, PC, PS4, Xbox One. I'm sure there are enough people out there who still love Naruto that this game will do well enough that we'll end up seeing 5 or 6 sequels to it before it's all said and done. Oh, it's 4-on-4, so 8 people battle at once. I mean, it is at least something unique for Naruto, but do you care about Naruto, Matt? Are you a Naruto fan?
I'm too old for Naruto. Yeah, everybody only cares about the shonen anime that was around when they were a child. Really.
That's pretty accurate, actually. That's usually how it works.
You give me a Robotech game and we'll talk.
Next up, God Eater 3. Smartly, this game won't be coming out until later in the year after Monster Hunter World has kind of made the rounds and everybody has gotten sick of it.
Code Vein is the God Eater team. So,
right.
I mean, that's kind of more what I'm expecting from that game is sort of God Eater with a stamina bar that's more unforgiving. You know?
Gotcha. God Eater 3 is the first God Eater game built from the ground up for Generation 8. So up to all this time, it's just been doing ports, and typically the series has really been a handheld series.
Yeah.
It's been big on PSP and Vita in the past. I don't think there's been a 3DS version, though, has there?
There is. I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. So I'm surprised they haven't announced one of these already for Switch, because obviously Switch is the perfect platform for them to port that again, one of the old ones, over to it. But this is the first one built specifically for this generation of consoles. It's not just a port from a handheld version over to a console. So, again, it's coming out later in the year. May give it a little bit of a window after Monster Hunter World. I honestly think Monster Hunter World is going to be huge. I think it's going to sell really, really freaking well. So maybe people are burned. So it could be one of two ways. People could either be burned out on this type of game by the time this comes out, or they could be finished with Monster Hunter World and be so jacked to play more of it that they jump on God Eater 3.
I mean, that kind of depends on the support for Monster Hunter World, but like Monster Hunter the successful Monster Hunters in the past have really retained their audience for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah. So, talk about a game with legs.
I think God Eater has its work cut out for it coming out the same year as that.
I think the expectations are different, too.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that still looks... If you told me that was ported from a handheld, I'd probably believe you.
Yeah.
It doesn't look... It doesn't look as good as Monster Hunter World.
No, it definitely doesn't. Yeah, they haven't shown much of it yet either. So that was like the first trailer that we just saw there, and we got that like a year ago. So next up, Soul Calibur 6. That was just announced right before we left for the holidays. Literally like right before we left. We talked about that a good bit recently. I don't think there's a release date for this yet.
No, I think it's just still 2018.
Let me take a look just in case.
Assuming it even makes that.
Oh, here's one thing, folks. Our release dates on Sifted are really accurate. So if you guys ever want to check a date, we take great care to make sure that they're up to date. Yeah, it's just still a generic 2018. So I'm guessing Q4, probably late summer, Q4. Since we first talked about it, a lot of gameplay and stuff has come out for it. They've been promoting it a good bit, so it does look like it's pretty far along.
Yeah, I would think Q3, Q4 is reasonable. I don't think this will slip to next year. It feels like, and also like Bandai Namco is pretty good about hitting its targets.
Ni no Kuni too, obviously.
Yeah, but that's a different beast.
Which actually segues nicely because that's what we're talking about next. Soul Calibur 6, by the way, is PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Ni no Kuni 2, PS4 and PC only. No Xbox One for that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, there's no Xboxes in Japan.
And it is Studio Ghibli, so I could see where maybe they pull back.
It's actually not, it turns out. Like, there is no involvement with Studio Ghibli.
Really?
Because there was in the first one.
Yeah.
They're just sort of aping the style.
Wow.
They've
done a damn good job.
Well, they have the same character designer
as
the last one, but it is not a Studio Ghibli co-production.
And obviously, you're one of your most anticipated games of the year, so you're all over this. I'm all over it, too. It looks freaking awesome. I also like the different gameplay styles. There's kind of like a little bit of a Pikmin element in the game.
Yeah, well, and also there's a thing kind of like where you're kind of building I think you're building like a town or like a country or a kingdom or something.
Yeah.
And I like that stuff. Part of me, there's part of me that has just always been searching for a replacement for the Dark Cloud games. Like since
those games are weird.
Dark Cloud 2, I loved.
Weirdest art style ever.
Weird art style, and also like weird Dark Cloud 2, where you're building all the towns and the villages. It was like kind of a part of the, it was kind of an ActRaiser thing, I guess.
Well, I mean that was in the first one too, though.
Yeah, but it was way better in the second one.
Oh yeah.
So like the fact that this has that kind of thing in it, makes me even more interested.
And the art, I mean, it's some of the
yeah.
best art in the industry, without a doubt.
I mean, also not to discount how many hours I played My Life as a King.
Yeah.
On the Wii, which is that My Life as a King. That was a WiiWare game. Some people count it as a Final Fantasy game, oddly enough. But I remember I played that so much. There was a moment at work at G4 when someone mentioned it, and like 5 or 6 people kind of finally kind of came out as My Life as a King addicts. Like where it's like oh yeah, I think Jess Reed started it, but it was like. So I was like, oh yeah, I played like 60 hours of that game. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't want to tell anyone because it seems so stupid, but I've been playing this game forever. And there's, I love that kind of like, you give me an RPG, but you also give me like a little like kind of city building sim. Like ActRaiser really did a number on me. It's something I always like to see.
So we're both all over Ni no Kuni
Okay.
too. It's done really well on the site as well. Like it's one of those games that no matter how much media comes out, when a new piece of media does come out, a lot of people watch it. So it's tracking really well. Hopefully that translates into sales.
I will miss Drippy, the Welsh kind of monster that helped you along. In the first, it was like having an adventure in an RPG with Marcus Beer along.
Yeah. Well, Marcus, that's one of his favorite games.
Oh yeah.
He loves Ni no Kuni, which strikes me as completely bizarre. Knowing him and knowing the games that he typically plays and likes, it makes no sense whatsoever. And it probably is because of...
It helps that you have a Welsh monster helping you.
Absolutely, yeah. Then the last game from Bandai Namco that's announced for... Actually, that's not true. We did cut some of the Bandai Namcos because there are so many games coming out. A lot of them are like mobile games and whatnot. We had to call these down a little bit. The last one we're going to talk about is Dragon Ball Fighters. That's coming out in just a couple weeks. Fighters. Awesome looking 2D fighting game. I don't give a crap about Dragon Ball. I really don't.
I hate Dragon Ball.
Yeah, look, I know
this looks amazing.
I know there's lots of people on Sifted and lots of gamers in general that love Dragon Ball. I personally don't care about it at all.
I was too old for Dragon Ball. I by the time it aired in America, I did watch the whole thing because I worked in a game store at the time in the late '90s. And the owner, it was owned by a guy who also owned a record store on the same property. And his grandchildren loved to watch Dragon Ball, and so he would send them into our store in the back of the parking lot to watch Dragon Ball because he couldn't tolerate it.
Yeah,
he was just like, I don't want to watch that crap. You guys deal with it. So I've seen pretty much all of Dragon Ball Z. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But I get this game.
Oh yeah,
this game looks
really
freaking
cool.
Awesome, man. I am loving this game. Just silky, smooth animation.
There's a lot of question. And there's a lot of question of like, will this game basically supplant Marvel versus Capcom Infinite as like the kind of the tag battle?
I played both of them. I believe this was my best fighting game of E3, if I remember correctly. I played both of them at E3. I thought this game was far better, far more engaging, far deeper, and far more challenging.
Yeah, well, the question comes down to who's got the bigger prize pool. And will Bandai Namco be into promoting this in that regard versus like Capcom's going to make fetch happen whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see Bandai Namco's support of this game in the tournament scene because I think it could be a big deal. And the audience is there, and the fighting game community seems pretty ready to adopt this game immediately. So hopefully they'll exploit that and kind of make it a new staple of the 2018 tournament scene. I'd like to see that.
This game has Fighting Game of the Year written all over it right now. I also should add that today, it was very interesting, Ed Boon went on Twitter and thanked me and Sifted for giving Injustice 2 Fighting Game of the Year for last year. It's pretty interesting to see people are watching. It's also very interesting when someone with that many followers tweets at you. I woke up today and I had like 500 notifications on Twitter. I was like, oh my God, what happened? Like somebody hacked our website and put like porn on the homepage. Like all these fears just shot through my mind like so quickly. And then I finally got to it. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. It's something good. Thank God it was something good. So that was nice. Ed, thank you very much and well-deserved. But no, there's no Injustice this year. And so I think this game is kind of setting itself up to certainly at least be one of the nominees for Fighting Game of the Year. So excited for that one. Let's move on to Capcom. Not a whole lot coming from Capcom that's announced right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of its MO anymore. It just doesn't release a lot of games
No, like there's a lot of, there's like Street Fighter anniversaries. There's the 30th anniversary collection. There's the Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of iteration happening, not a lot of brand new stuff.
Yeah. And very little announced. I probably should have actually included Capcom in the scraps at the end of this. But we are going to talk about it. We already talked about Monster Hunter World. That's coming to PC, PS4, Xbox One in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
End of the month. I think it's around the same time as...
Yeah, there's a few good games coming out at the end of the month. Yeah. Are you going to buy it? You going to play it?
I'll probably play it because we're going to talk about it. If I wasn't on this show, I probably wouldn't.
Really?
I've never been a Monster Hunter fan.
I play one every few years. It seems is how it works out, and that's because once I start playing one, I play it for like 100+ hours.
I've given it a try a few times. I think the last time I actually did play one, try to get into one, was Monster Hunter Try.
No, that's the last one I played, and on the Wii, and I played it for over 100 hours, and then quit. And I have not touched Monster Hunter since. And the timing is perfectly for this, and this game is looking awesome. It was one of my most pleasant surprise games at E3. Getting to see it and play it up close. I was pretty shocked at how high quality it was. Not only that, but how it felt and looked a lot different from prior Monster Hunter games. I felt like the Monster Hunter franchise had kind of fallen into this rut, and it kind of had stayed there for years and years, and they had no reason to kind of get out of it because Japan just keeps lapping it up. And I feel like for Bandai Namco to make the game as big a hit here as it is in Japan, relatively speaking, because it probably still does sell more here, just because of the size of the market. But if they want to scale up in the West and sell percentage-wise what they sell in Japan, they needed to make some changes, and I feel like they have made those changes for this one. It's still Monster Hunter, don't get me wrong, but the combat doesn't feel as clunky. It's a lot more flexible than it used to be. I'm pretty excited for it. I feel like this is going to be kind of the game from Q1 that I end up spending a lot of time talking about throughout the year, and I keep going back to reference. That tends to happen when you spend a lot of time playing a game. You end up going back and referencing it and comparing it to games on through the year, and I think this is going to be one of those for me. So I'm pretty excited for that. Devil May Cry 5, Matt, is going to happen.
I don't think there's a question that it exists. It's just a matter of when.
Well, it sounds like it's done. Didn't he just say that he just finished a game that he hasn't even announced yet?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think, there was a story.
I mean, it certainly would explain why they're putting the collection out.
Yeah, there was a story, like, last week. Let me see if I can dig it up.
And that collection is needed, by the way, because the PC versions of those games are all...
Yeah, Video Game Director says his game is nearly done, but is it Devil May Cry 5? So yeah, the word on the street right now is that he has finished a game that hasn't been announced. What is it? Well, it's probably Devil May Cry 5. So it could be a case where not only do we get it this year, we get it pretty soon. And Capcom could use it. I mean, Resident Evil 7 sold okay. I'm guessing it did not sell anywhere near up to Capcom's expectations, though.
Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't expect Devil May Cry 5 to sell tremendous either.
No, but I mean, they need revenue in any way, shape, or form at this point. I mean, how many more times can you repackage Street Fighter 5? Like,
oh, don't challenge them.
Please don't challenge them. I mean, now we're getting the arcade.
That was not a dare, Capcom. Don't get any ideas.
Now we're getting the arcade edition, which actually kind of sounds cool, but yeah, I mean, Capcom is just not... It's crazy to think about last generation compared to this generation. And even compare last generation to the one before that, it has just been this kind of steady decline for Capcom over the last 10 to 15 years.
Well, kind of like there was that sort of this optimism they had of oh, we're going to turn the fighting games into kind of a games as a service thing, and then they just kept screwing it up.
Yeah.
And I would never have believed how poorly Marvel vs. Capcom was received. They did everything you could possibly imagine wrong there. This,
I still had fun playing it.
I had fun playing it, okay, but it's they didn't treat it with respect. They weren't careful with how they presented it. I don't think they gave it the budget it needed. It felt like a cheap, quick cash-in game, and Marvel vs. Capcom has much. I mean, it's a fun game. It's a crazy game. It's a light kind of don't take it too seriously game in a lot of ways, but there was no respect shown to the legacy of that that franchise, and people just weren't buying it.
Another bomb. I mean, it bombed pretty much.
And like I look, as much I did enjoy playing it to some degree, but it's like I can't blame the people that just walked away from it.
And it's going to be interesting to watch sort of the esports scene over the next year as Capcom tries to impose its will and tries to get that game into EVO and all these other competitions.
I mean, it'll get in there because they're going to pay for there to be a prize pool that makes it worth people's while to play it.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't mean these entries aren't chosen organically by the community. They're chosen by the the money the players can win. And if you're a big company like Capcom, you can manipulate that.
Can it? It's had some rough years here, man.
It's still got enough to throw a $100,000 prize package behind an EVO tournament. Yeah. Like it'll be there.
It's not going to save it though.
No. And I will say that like high level play on that game is pretty fun to watch still.
I think that game is one of the most fun fighting games to watch. Period. Just that franchise in general. I think a lot of it has to do with the characters and the history that you have with them and how they resonate with you and that sort of thing. But just visually, it is very interesting to watch. And I think the average player can watch someone else play it and still appreciate it, even if they don't get the intricacies of it.
Yeah, I've been having trouble with that with the Overwatch League this week.
Oh, really?
I don't understand what the hell I'm looking at.
I don't either, dude.
I mean,
I've tried to watch Overwatch esports a bunch of times, and it just turns into this.
Yeah,
I just glaze over.
I give Blizzard a lot of credit for like doing stuff in the physical game that makes it conducive to broadcast stuff, like giving everybody colors and team colors and stuff and all that. Just
having a city as the team instead of just some generic product.
Like I appreciate what they're after there, but I watch that and I'm just like, I do not understand what's important, what isn't, what's happening. I mean, I just don't play it enough to know.
And it goes so fast. It's like I can't even keep up. It's one of the times I've watched esports and I'm like, I feel old. Last from Capcom, and that's only 3 games, and one of them we're counting on coming, Mega Man 11. Which we talked about at the end of the year. We're both pretty happy with, excited about. I will say this, when I was on Colin Moriarty's podcast, he is like the world's biggest Mega Man fan. I did not know that about him, but he made it blatantly clear that he is a big-time Mega Man guy. He is not particularly enthused for this game.
No, I think most really hardline Mega Man fans don't seem to be too...
They don't like the art style.
No.
I love it. I think
like
it looks great.
I mean, I was also a fan of the kind of, I always wanted to see the series kind of move forward into kind of this more, detailed, fluid 2D art style. I mean, I get that people don't like the kind of the 3D as 2D thing. Like, I understand that. I would prefer, I mean, in 32-bit era, I was blown away, I remember, by Mega Man 8. Because Mega Man 8 had the cell animation, and it was not great, really, but, like, it was like...
It was different.
The game
for that time, it was different.
That game taken to its logical extreme at the edge of the hardware you could make at the time, and bad localization and weird dubbing aside, like I thought that was like where this was going to go, and I'd prefer to see kind of the technology art style kind of push forward rather than just sitting in that 8-bit zone forever. Because like we already did 2 of those. Like try it again. Show Mighty Number 9 how it's done.
Yeah. And that's it for Capcom. That is it. 3 games right now announced for 2018. So, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Next up is Sega, and this is the last publisher that kind of has its own category. The one thing I would note about Sega, Matt, is that Sega is one of the few publishers left that kind of like only publishes exclusives for platforms. If you look at this list, there's only 1 game on this list that's for multiple platforms out of like 6 or 7, which is kind of crazy to think about. So first up, Shin Megami Tensei 5. We actually talked about that last week because we needed to get as much stuff as we could for Switch. But it is a Switch exclusive. We're not going to burn too much time on that, obviously, because we discussed it at length last week. But yeah, exclusive to Switch, which is crazy. Yakuza 6, that's coming out this year. That's PS4 exclusive.
Yep, and that is the first one built for the PS4 only.
Yep. Is Yakuza 7 coming out this year in Japan? Is that right?
I don't think anybody knows for sure. Like, there's another Yakuza coming, but it's not. It may not be called 7.
Well, they did that big stream that showed off, and they have like the free-to-play like.
There's a free-to-play mobile thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the series will probably continue, but it won't be about Kazuma Kiryu anymore. And I think they teased like a guy that might be the replacement main character who looked coolish. or something.
Ish.
It's hard to say, like, because 6 is supposed, 6 wraps a lot of stuff up, and Yakuza, if it continues, is going to have to reinvent itself to some degree. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see it in Japan, another Yakuza, because clearly they're doing great over there.
They just keep cranking them out.
And we're getting 6 sometime this year, and hopefully we get an announcement for Kiwami 2, getting a Western release.
That's a done deal, I think.
Yeah, and it's a good time to be a Yakuza fan.
Yeah, it's just a flood of Yakuza. It's
I think
really crazy.
We get six coming out, and you get a Western release of Kiwami 2, and you basically got the entire Yakuza, basically the entire Yakuza story playable on modern consoles. Like you just had to get 1 and 2 off of PlayStation 2 because those games haven't aged too well.
Yeah,
and now you've got everything is everything is has like a modern take on it. 1 and 2 have been remade with kind of the modern sensibility and sort of what Yakuza sort of finally evolved into. And at this point, your most primitive one is probably Yakuza 3 on the PS3, but it still holds up. I wouldn't mind seeing them do a redo of Yakuza 3 in the West that includes all the cut content that they cut out in the Western version. Because they cut out all the Hostess stuff, they cut out all the mahjong and all that kind of stuff they thought people wouldn't care about in the West. But the fan base was like, screw you, we want the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so they have put anything that was in the Japanese version since then has made it to U.S. shores in the Western version. So it wouldn't surprise me to maybe one day see them redo 3 and bring that over. But I feel like whatever is next for Yakuza, I can't tell you. Like I don't think anybody knows yet. But whatever it is, I will play it. Not the mobile game, but I'll play the console stuff.
Yep. Next up, Total War: Thrones of Britannia. We're gonna actually. There's another Total War game that was just announced yesterday. That is actually our trailer of the week this week. So I'm not going to talk about that in this section. But Total War: Thrones of Britannia. Essentially, you're trying to stave off a Viking invasion in this one. I'm just wondering.
Common problem back then.
Yeah. First of all, Creative Assembly, man, how can they just keep cranking out these RTS games?
Yeah, that's what they do.
I mean, how big is that studio, though? Because it's creating this and the other one that we're going to show later on.
I mean, some of it's, to some degree, it's like once you've got that engine in place, it's just sort of mod making, right?
I guess, but their games look so good, though. It's like, they don't look like cut and paste games.
Right. I think they just do one thing and they know how to do it and they know how to do it well and fast.
I guess. Obviously, this is PC only.
Right.
So again, another Sega game that's only for one platform. Up next, Valkyria Chronicles 4. Strategy RPG. This one's actually kind of going back to the roots of the franchise, which I think a lot of fans will be happy about. It's kind of splintered off a little bit in the last couple of
2 and
entries.
3 were not great.
Yeah. The first one, I remember when we were at GT and Damiani was playing it, and it was one of those games that came in that nobody really wanted to play, and I just kind of schluffed it off on him. I'm like, you're playing this, Mike. And he was like, okay, I'll check it out. And within like 4 hours of him starting to play, suddenly everyone was gathered around him while he was playing it.
The first game is really, really good. In fact, it's one person I know, it's his favorite game of all time.
I can see that. It's a very distinctive, very unique game.
It's solid. If you haven't played it, you should.
And you can probably get it for $10 or whatever.
2 and 3, I think, were just handheld games, or PSP or Vita, and like the second one was more like it was a prequel, and it took place at like a training academy or something, and like it wasn't like a big war story. It was more like little individual bite-sized missions, and it wasn't the same thing. And this is going back to kind of the Battlefield. Sort of more Fire. I mean, it was more Fire Emblem with a real-time element to it, because like it's a turn-based strategy game, but you move your characters around in real time like this. Like you've basically got a set area you can move around in, the equivalent of having a turn-based game where you have like a certain number of squares you can move, and when you get there, you basically fire in real time your gun off, and there's tanks. It was the first game had kind of a World War I-ish sort of sensibility. This one seems to be going even more fantastical with it.
It also reminds me a little bit of like a 3D Advance Wars.
A little bit. I mean, It's got its own idea. The first one, at least, had its own identity, and there wasn't really anything else like it. And it's nice to see them kind of finally acknowledging that and going back to what made the first one a big cult hit.
Also digging the art style in this.
Yeah.
It's like, looks like everything's like hand colored.
Yeah.
The way that they
like
can see there.
there's a kind of a sketch look to it.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Yeah. If you haven't played like the remastered first one, give it a shot. Like next time it's on sale or something.
And this is the only multi-platform game from Sega that we're talking about today. This is coming for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
Oh, Xbox One. That's a surprise.
And Switch.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Next up is a game that was also just announced yesterday. Sega's on a run lately. Who announces a bunch of games in January? Sega! It's called Border Break. And Matt, this game is under development by AM2.
Wow.
They live. Like, I thought that studio was just
name I've
gone.
not heard in a long time.
Seriously, man. I thought AM2 was just dead. When I saw this trailer popping up in the feed yesterday, I'm like, oh, what's that? It was like half in Japanese. I'm like, oh, I'll watch it. Because sometimes when I'm curating, I'll just watch all the Japanese stuff because I need stuff for Geif. For like the bumpers.
Start giving the female mech pilots pants, Japan? Yeah. Like, can I just ask for pants for Christmas for these people?
But I watched it and I was like, oh, wow, AM2 is like the first thing that popped up. And I was like, their logo with like the palm tree, which makes no sense whatsoever. It's so awesome.
Well, you remember in Fighters Megamix when the palm tree was a playable fighter?
Right, yeah. Which is great.
Along with a Daytona USA car and a chunk of meat. Yeah.
So this is a PS4 exclusive. It is a free-to-play online mech battle game. Got a little taste of Titanfall in it. But it's a third-person game, so it's like Virtual On, really. But doesn't Sega already own Virtual On?
Yeah.
So I don't know why
Virtual On is busy being in a crossover game with a certain magical index.
Yeah.
Which is another one I don't feel like trying to explain.
I think this game was also an arcade game from 2008 or something like that.
Could be. I've heard the name before.
Yeah. It looks pretty freaking cool. Obviously, there's a lot of anime involved in the game. And then later on in this trailer, actually, maybe, Sam, you can skip forward a little bit so people can see some of the gameplay.
But it's mechs.
Yeah, here we go. So here you can actually see some of the game.
It's a little bit of Gundam versus kind of Armored Core.
Yeah,
thing going on
a little bit. And a little bit of Virtual On. You got the dash and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's free to play. It's going to cost nothing, which makes you nervous about the whole microtransaction thing and how that's going to work. But it's PS4 exclusive.
Although Japan tends to make it pretty much just buy weird costumes.
No, you're right. Yeah, they're usually just stick to cosmetics, so it should be okay. No word on release date yet, but there is a closed beta coming up pretty soon. Not sure if that's open to people from the West. It's not been confirmed for release in the West yet either. But with the way Sega's been going, I think it's pretty safe to...
Sega don't care.
Unless it's Phantasy Star Online. Then, of course, no way. That's never going to happen. But I bet you we'll see this stupid thing.
I feel like you wouldn't dig Phantasy Star Online 2 that much.
No?
No. I mean, it is very similar to this in a lot of ways, I guess, but it's...
Is it Phantasy Star?
I mean, no. I mean, I watch my girlfriend play it, and I wouldn't recognize it as Phantasy Star.
Okay.
It's the same kind of like go into areas and play kind of an action
RPG,
shooter thing with it,
with instances or whatever.
But I would never look at it and say like, oh, that's Phantasy Star.
Oh, are there mags?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, floaty things, I guess. But that doesn't define Phantasy Star to me. But I'm a Genesis Phantasy Star fan.
Oh, right.
I want them to just make another Phantasy Star game. I want Phantasy Star 5.
That'll never happen.
I don't care about Phantasy Star Online.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's cool. I like mechs. It's free. If you put it in front of me, I'll play it. How about that?
Yeah. And let's see what's next.
Until From makes a new frickin' Armored Core game. Where the hell is that? I'd like an Armored Core game with the lessons of Dark Souls applied.
They've been talking about Armored Core, saying that they haven't forgotten about it. And
yeah, I'm sure.
It's possible.
But I'm pretty sure
that's possible. A new Phantasy Star? Probably not.
I'm pretty sure that little teaser they put out is not Armored Core.
No.
It's a very different take on Armored Core than...
You never know, though, in 2018. It could surprise you. Let's see, next up, Fist of the North Star. So this is being developed by the Yakuza team.
Yeah.
This is not just some C-level team that's making this game.
This has some pretty good pedigree to it. And there is a section where you run a hostess club for some reason. There was a trailer where he's in like
because
a
it's made by the
like,
Yakuza team.
It's basically it's very much
That's exactly
by the Yakuza
why.
team.
This is essentially a beat 'em up.
So is this coming here? Is this actually getting a
No, not announced
Western
yet.
release?
They don't know yet. But
so still just Hokuto no Ken at this point.
yeah, I will say one of the best memories I ever had from going to Japan was going to a karaoke bar and hearing somebody sing the Fist of the North Star theme song in karaoke. It was quite impactful, I guess is the best way to put it. I was like, wow, I never really noticed how awesome that song was until this guy really got into it.
I mean, I liked it. Here, this is my Naruto.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a kid when this was rentable at Blockbuster. This is the original like.
This is your guilty pleasure of your anime guilty pleasure.
Oh, there's a lot of those, but like, this is one of the ones I would rent over and over at Blockbuster, and this one and Vampire Hunter D and Akira.
Yeah.
This is what we grew up on. Mad Max with punching.
Yep, pretty much. There's never really been a good Fist of the North Star video game. Usually they're given to really bad teams, and they're just like a licensed cash-in. This one looks like there's actually been some
Sometimes
effort
they're not
put
even
in.
called Fist of the North Star.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Still has a little bit of cheese to it, but I don't think it would be a Fist of the North Star game if it didn't have it. So.
No, it's a property in which you punch a man enough until he explodes. It's not. We're not here for seriousness. But,
yep. And this also is an exclusive. This is PS4 exclusive. So again, Sega not loving the multi-platform stuff.
If it comes here, I will give it a shot because the Yakuza guys. I trust the Yakuza team to give me some fun combat.
Yep. Absolutely. So now it's time to pick up the scraps of 2018. And basically, we just found publishers that are only putting out a game or two and just put them all into one topic for the end of the show. Activision, only one known game. Activision/Blizzard, only one known game. And,
well, Blizzard's got the expansion for World of Warcraft coming out. I don't know if that counts, but...
It did not in my book, man.
All right. And there are persistent rumors that there's a new Blizzard game this year that we don't know about.
Well, that's what Pachter was saying too, because he's like they didn't really put out anything last year, but they don't have anything announced for this year either. So,
but again, they might be in the Take-Two situation where they just aren't done counting their money.
It's possible, and they will never be done counting their money.
Yeah,
by the way.
they did just put out a Hearthstone expansion. That Hearthstone expansion gonna bring in some cash. They got to take some time to count all that.
It absolutely will. So we're going to start with Activision. Only one game. We don't know exactly what it is, but I think we do. This is Treyarch's year for Call of Duty, and so the chances are Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which doesn't mean that it's tied to any particular era or anything. Black Ops has been the subtitle for the last 3 Treyarch Call of Duty games, and they have spanned all different eras. So we really don't know. It could be World War II, World War I, Vietnam. Nobody knows.
Well, Black Ops would probably imply something Cold War or later.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me to see them kind of hit Vietnam era. It could be anything. I mean, as long as it's called Black Ops, I think it's going to be successful. So it doesn't really matter what they do when it comes down to it.
I did not like the last Black Ops, and I am a huge fan of the first 2 Black Ops. Black Ops 3 did not wind my clock at all.
Well, I've never liked the Black Ops games.
I love Black Ops 2 is probably my favorite Call of Duty.
I don't like the way Treyarch paces stuff. They don't know when to make something breathe, in my opinion. So I'm not.
That's the way this one was. It was literally just it just started at 11 and just stayed there for the whole game.
That's pretty much how Treyarch does it. I like Infinity Wards, or what used to be Infinity Wards.
Yeah.
It's kind of thing where they just sort of. They knew when to make it quiet. They knew when to blow things up. They knew when to take it back. They knew when to crank it up. It was there's a better flow to how they do it.
Well, Infinite Warfare, I thought the campaign in that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like the quieter moments that give punch to the bigger moments.
Yeah,
you
need peaks and valleys to appreciate both the highs and the lows. Call of Duty World War II, I struggled to get through that campaign. In fact, I cannot remember. I mean, Infinite Warfare was the first campaign I had really enjoyed since, I think, Black Ops 2. So the campaigns have really been hit or miss. I do generally like Treyarch's multiplayer. The progression system, the tweaks that they impart into it, I usually end up liking them a little bit more than the others. But I don't think there's any doubt the next one's going to be... Or maybe it's World at War II. That's possible.
Could be anything, yeah.
Because that's the other subtitle that Treyarch operates under, and with everything going back again...
Could be Call of Duty 3, too. They made that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
What else? We got Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has nothing announced for this year.
No.
Except for people are assuming Rocksteady's new game is coming out. And Rocksteady's Twitter feed has been hinting that, in fact, we will be seeing, one, we'll be seeing the game soon, and that two, it shouldn't be that far off once we do see it. Lots of rumors swirling that it's Superman.
Nah.
Don't think so?
I don't think so. I think it's that Suicide Squad game that,
Oh, really?
that Warner Brothers has been threatening to inflict on us for years.
Really?
'Cause remember, Arkham Origins ended with the Suicide
That's right.
Squad tease, and
That's right.
Suicide Squad being the only successful movie in the DC cinematic universe before Wonder Woman showed up last year.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense to me. And Suicide Squad, while it was not particularly good, did have an impact on the pop culture, where you've got everybody dressing as the Joker and Harley Quinn for Halloween, and like their iconic character reinventions,
Absolutely.
whether you like the movie or not. So that makes sense to me as something that they would try to capitalize on. And I think, I don't know if Rocksteady's the one working on that, but because Montreal was kind of teased as that before, but I think they're absorbed in Shadow of War by now. But if I would not be surprised to see Rocksteady pop up with a Suicide Squad game.
Rumors are Superman. I don't know.
I mean, Superman could happen too, but I feel like you're in a weird limbo with Superman right now if you're Warner Brothers, because you don't want to base it on the movie one, but you don't want to confuse the issue by doing like an unrelated Superman.
I think Superman
version.
is just a bad video game character. I think he's hard to work with, because how do you create tension when you have someone who's completely indestructible other than kryptonite? And the whole kryptonite thing gets so played out after a while.
Well,
It's
you could make it so. I mean, the idea is you could make it so instead of him being the thing under threat, it's other things and he has to save, because that's what Superman does. But then you've just made a game that's basically one giant escort mission,
right.
and nobody likes that.
Exactly.
So I don't
We
know.
all know about Superman 64, obviously.
I mean, it's probably not impossible, but I think Batman. I mean, Batman was considered the same thing for a long time until Rocksteady reinvented it.
That's true.
But I think Superman's a much tougher nut to crack in that
Absolutely.
regard than Batman is, because Batman at least is just a dude in a suit.
Yep.
And Superman is you have to find a way to limit Superman to, because otherwise it's just too open. He can just do anything. And
He can fly through buildings.
and
It's like there's no boundaries.
And as soon as you limit him, you're not really playing Superman anymore.
No.
So what do you do?
And then to limit him, it's always kryptonite.
So
It's always kryptonite.
if you're looking at stuff that has been threatened or teased by the previous Arkham stuff, I think the Suicide Squad thing makes the most sense, because they've had a modicum of success, penetrating mindshare with that movie.
It's tough for DC.
It has.
film-wise, yeah.
And you've got kind of a Batman character in the form of Deadpool, the guy that Deadpool's a ripoff of, Deathstroke. And you've got various, you can kind of do a team thing, you maybe do a co-op thing, if you want to, or you can just have
It can also be
swapping out.
edgy and gritty.
Yeah, which Rocksteady seems to like.
Yep.
So that would be where my money would be. But it could be frankly, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be. Maybe it's not even superhero related. Who knows?
possible.
There's no way to know.
What do you want it to be?
Oh, man! After Arkham Knight, I don't trust those fuckers. Basically, I mean, I'd like it to be another Batman game that just doesn't have the Batmobile in it. How about that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd kind of like to see them do something new. I mean, get away from the DC superhero stuff and do something else. I don't know what that would be. But after all these years of working on Batman games, I'd kind of like to see Rocksteady set loose.
Yeah, I don't blame him for not wanting to do another Batman game.
Like Horizon Zero Dawn style.
Yeah.
You guys must have something in your heads you wanted to make during all that time.
Right.
What was it?
What is it?
You
Yeah,
know,
let's see
that,
it.
that would kind of be my preference.
Okay. Next up, Bethesda. Also, nothing announced.
Right.
But Bethesda, it is the king of, here it is, now buy it 60 days
See you
later.
3 months later, yeah.
Yeah. I also wonder, too, if Bethesda's going to start second-guessing its strategy of not setting out review code early.
Yeah.
Because it's had several bombs in a row now.
I don't know if that's something to really lay at the feet.
I don't even know if it's
of that.
related or not,
But at this point, it couldn't hurt.
why not change it up?
Yeah.
You were doing a lot better, I would say, financially before when you were allowing the press to play your games early.
Yeah, it clearly wasn't hurting you.
It also doesn't hurt either that back then they had games like Skyrim and Oblivion.
Right.
So I guess the big question is Elder Scrolls 6. Do we see it this year? I don't think so.
No?
No.
what do we see then?
Well, it was at E3 2016, Bethesda went on record. Mr. Howard, in an interview, said that they had not even really begun work on it. And so here we are, not even 2 years later. I just don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, look, hey, they've put out amazingly huge games without even announcing them for the last, 2 years straight. So if there's one publisher that would do something like that, that's probably it.
I just wonder, I mean, it's been 2 years since Fallout 4.
Bethesda needs Elder Scrolls 6, man.
Yeah,
it needs to refill the coffers. I mean, it hasn't had a hit in a while.
I mean, there was a lot of talk that's why Fallout 4 came out when it did, that they needed an infusion. And so that's why Fallout 4 was a little half-baked when it came out.
Yeah, I would totally believe that. I mean, you start looking back across the last 3 or 4 games it's released, and these are big bets for Bethesda. Bethesda, by the way, not a publicly held company. Mm-hmm. It is a privately held company. So they take the losses maybe a little bit harder than you would if you have all these stockholders and all this equity in your company.
But at the same time, they have a little more freedom to decide what to do with it.
Absolutely.
With that scenario.
Yep, absolutely. They have more control, and they know their finances better than anyone, and they can ultimately make the decision that's going to make the company thrive or nosedive. But they do need a new Elder Scrolls, man.
I mean, I would really like to see Elder Scrolls 6
so would I.
Make it.
I would be really excited about that.
It's been a long time since Skyrim. I missed that world.
They can't port Skyrim again. They can't. No. At this point, it's out for VR. It's out for Switch. There's no nook or cranny of the industry left for Skyrim to go.
Skyrim mobile.
That's all that's left. I mean, isn't that what Switch really is? I mean, I look at Switch as like a mobile platform. And I think earlier I even called it like a portable instead of a handheld. But I don't know. I feel like you're right. Like, it should be coming out this year. How long has it been since Skyrim? What year did it come out?
2011.
2011?
That's 7 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so maybe it is coming this year, man. Like, maybe Todd Howard's just talking at his butt. But you would think.
I mean,
they should have started the next one as soon as they finished Skyrim.
Well, they probably did. Like, I mean, when he says we haven't started it yet, maybe it means we haven't started our development in earnest. But I can't believe that they haven't had people drawing concept art.
I remember when I read that quote, my jaw dropped. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is your cash cow." And look, even at 2016, you weren't pushing it out the door. That was 5 years. Mm-hmm. Now we're at 7 or 8. It's hard to imagine that it wouldn't at least be shown this year. And more likely come out this year. It's going to be a smash hit.
I mean, I don't know what else they would have for the end of the year.
I don't either, but we didn't know the year before that and the year before that. And out comes Fallout, out comes Prey, out comes all those other games that didn't do well. So
Doom?
Another
Doom, maybe?
No. I don't think so. It's only been a year. And they just got done with the Switch version, which was obviously done out of house and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like they got to go back to the well here.
They should.
They need a hit.
I'm okay with that. Go to that well. Go to that Elder Scrolls well. No one's going to complain.
You can't anchor a schedule on Wet 2.
No.
You'll never get tired
of it. Or Battle Cry. Remember that one that they pumped really hard and just basically got canceled?
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that.
I found it. I was cleaning out the TriCaster the other day, and I found B-roll of that game. And I was like, holy crap.
It's like an Overwatch-style thing, like a character action. Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, that game just got canceled, I guess, just gone.
Yeah, it just vanished.
Yep. The last publisher, if I had a drum roll or a drum here, I'd play a drum roll. It's Koei Tecmo. I am really hoping for a new Ninja Gaiden. Obviously, as a big fan of the franchise. Mm-hmm. It's been plenty of time. Neo, I felt like circumvented the next Ninja Gaiden. Maybe that's what Team Ninja needed, was time working on something else to get a new perspective on Ninja Gaiden. But I am hoping at the very least one is announced this year. Whether it comes out this year or not, highly doubtful. I really don't think that's going to happen. What we do know about Koei Tecmo is Dynasty Warriors 9 coming out very soon. Obviously with the brand new open world design, which obviously worked well for Zelda. I don't know if it'll work quite as well for a hack and slash like Dynasty Warriors.
I don't really know what the difference would be.
I don't either.
Unless they're really,
other than it just gets rid of the loading.
I get, or unless they're really doubling down on kind of the territory control, kind of thing, or which could be kind of cool. One of the things I've always wanted from this series is a more dynamic sense of taking territory and losing territory and regaining territory. And if that's kind of what they intend to use the open world for, it's kind of a more action, more like dynamic and immediate sense of like losing this ground and you got to move your forces up here. And then like I can send my forces here, but I'm gonna go personally down here to like push into this like salient.
Wasn't there a Samurai Warriors game that kind of did that? That had
bit.
kind of an RTS.
I mean, the Empires kind of
yeah.
games tend to sort of try to do that, but that's more of like a turn-based kind of, it's more of a Romance of the Three Kingdoms kind of approach.
Yeah.
Where I'm talking about more of like a big open battle world where you can
that's
kind of
like living and happening.
Right.
Gotcha.
So like something like that, like would be, or maybe I guess like kind of a, like almost like the gang bat war in San Andreas.
Yeah.
Where like things were happening and you had to decide kind of what to prioritize and like whether that was going to be a weakness that you could deal with and come back to later, whether you had to get there now. Like that kind of thing would be interesting to me and would kind of revitalize this series, but I don't know what they're after on this. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it because it's Dynasty Warriors.
Well, you don't have to wait much longer. It comes out in like 2 or 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, well, I'm going to admit that I'll be waiting for the reviews on this one.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I'm hoping Koei Tecmo sends me a review code. That's all I'm going to say on that. But it's coming out soon, so those of you who really like Dynasty Warriors, and there are a lot of you, I know that, not long to wait for the next one. And the last game we're going to talk about today is Attack on Titan 2. Did you play the first one?
I did.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I liked it. I do like the Attack on Titan anime, at least to a point.
I tried to watch it on Netflix. I could not get into it.
Well, early on, it's pretty awesome, and then somewhere around episode 5 or 6, it just becomes standard issue anime number 4083, which I thought was disappointing. But and also, like season 2 took forever. I don't even know if is it out yet? Did that come out?
I haven't seen
it. Did. It's just it was a big sensation all at once, and then they just dragged their feet on kind of capitalizing on it. But I thought the first game I played, and I thought it captured the crazy movement and kind of premise of the game really well. Way better than I expected it to. So yeah, I'm cool with more of it. Like it doesn't look all that different.
This game is coming out on everything.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Last gen, this gen, Switch, like literally every freaking platform.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I need another one of these, but like the first one was good. I thought it captured it well.
It's a different game. There's really no other game like this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Spider-Man meets Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good way to describe it.
Like, it's cool. It's got a kind of an adrenaline kick to it. I liked it.
Yep. So that is coming middle of the year, I believe, to pretty much every platform under the sun.
In the West or in Japan?
It is coming out in the West. Yeah. Yep. So that's it. That is the conclusion of our 2018 video game preview. It took 2 episodes to get through all of it, which is crazy. The only thing we didn't really cover is indie games. Maybe we do like a very, very top skim of indie stuff in next week's episode, because I'm having a feeling we're going to be scrounging for some topics over in the next couple of weeks.
It could be.
This year is off to a very slow start compared to...
there's very little... I was telling you before we went live, I was like, if I wasn't on the show, if I was just kind of playing games to play whatever I wanted and what I was interested in, like the first new thing I played this year would probably be Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't even know. Like
it ain't no 2017.
Far Cry, maybe? Like I mean, it's not. Q1 is.
It's like I said,
barren.
Monster Hunter World for me, or Dragon Ball Fighters. I'll get.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I'd get to them, but I wouldn't be like day one on those. Yep. But like, yeah, I don't know. In comparison to last year, it's night and day.
It is, yeah.
It's more like what Q1 used to be.
I mean, you're right. I mean, but actually, now that we've kind of really previewed the whole year in games, and there will be some surprises here and there, like maybe an Elder Scrolls or something.
Yeah, we still don't know a whole lot about the back half of 2018.
We don't. But still, we just went through a ton of games in this show, and we went through a ton last time. This year pales in comparison to last year.
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, an Elder Scrolls would help.
It would. That would make a big difference. Yeah.
But I mean, last year was
pretty amazing.
It was singular. I mean, it was.
Sometimes
you don't get those.
No,
too
it's
often.
easy sometimes when you're in something not to realize how awesome it is until you move on to something that's not quite as awesome, and then you always look back. It's like thinking about eras of your career or whatever. Like while you're in them, you're like, oh, this seems kind of cool, but I'm working real hard, and then you move on to something else and you look back. It's like I always look back at our days at X-Play as like the best days of my career. Wasn't making a ton of money. I just loved going to work every day. But while you're doing it and you're not making a lot of money, but you're still liking going to work, you're like, man, I would really like to make more money. But then you go somewhere else, make more money, but you start looking back, you're like, well, I just loved going to work and hanging with those people every day. Like, I think that perspective translates across a lot of different things in life, and I think that's what we're going to see with 2017, is that it was a really, really good year. So, not to say 2018 is not going to be good, but I think 2017 ultimately will go down as one of the greatest years ever in video games.
Yeah, I think it's... That's the problem. Is like 2018 is going to be good.
Yeah.
But 2017 was great.
Yeah.
So,
really incredible.
Game release wise. I'm not
absolutely.
Not,
every other way.
Don't let that go to your head, 2017.
All right, so it's time for our trailer of the week. As always, you guys know you want to get your questions into the chat while the trailer runs. And as I mentioned earlier, and I kind of gave it away, the trailer of the week is for a brand new Total War game. It's called Total War 3 Kingdoms. Roll it.
The Empire, long divided, must unite. A great dynasty burns, and tyrants rule over the ashes. As the light dims, shadows grow ever darker. Ambition corrupts the future, and harmony shatters in the flames of turmoil. Yet from the cinders, the powerful and righteous emerge. The Empire, long united, must divide, and destiny be shaped by its champions.
So there you have it. The other RTS of Creative Assembly is building 2 RTS at once. The one we mentioned earlier, Viking era. This obviously set in ancient Japan or China.
Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have told you what that was, you could have watched that trailer and thought it was Dynasty Warriors.
Well, the art style is very different.
A little
it's more realistic than Dynasty Warriors, but it's funny to watch them you're clearly trying to differentiate these well-known characters from the way they look in Dynasty Warriors, but you can still it's like Lu Bu and Guan Yu and all those guys.
Yeah.
Because they're historical figures, so apparently they wore green one way or the other. But it's cool. I mean, it surprises me it took that long to make that game. It seems like a no-brainer for Creative Assembly's wheelhouse. So.
Absolutely. Before we get to questions, one I wanted to mention, some of you guys may have joined the stream late. It is a new month. And every month you have to re-up your subscription to us from Amazon Prime. So make sure you link your account from Amazon Prime to Twitch, and then there's a little button to the top right of the player on our page where you can basically subscribe to us. And we'll get $2.50, I think, for free. You don't have to do anything. Just click that button, and if you will bestow us...
I mean, clicking that button is doing something.
Right, I guess you're right. But you don't have to pay anything.
Right.
You can give us $2.50 for free, which we really appreciate. So... another thing I should mention is our Sifted Fantasy Draft. So this next week looks really slow. So I don't know if we'll have a traditional GameFace next week. We may just end up being our Sifted Fantasy Draft. And we'll be looking at some rule changes this year. I think we may eliminate DLC this year. Standalone DLC. Because I think that's a little murky. And I think it makes it not as legit if you're just picking DLC packs.
Yeah, I don't think I have any on my short list this year. So
You've already put together a list?
Oh, I know.
And that's why you're the two-time champ. I haven't even thought about it yet. But, yeah, so we'll have probably the draft maybe right after GameFace, or if we don't have enough stuff for GameFace, we'll just do the draft. We usually don't do the draft live. We usually pre-record it, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I guess I don't remember.
Yeah, I think and I don't know if we will next week or not. We'll see. What else? Oh, so I mentioned during the show that I was on Colin Moriarty's podcast. He has put it up for his patrons. I am not sure when that podcast will go up for everyone, but when it does, we'll curate it to the site, and you guys will be able to hear it. I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes. He said most of his podcasts are always an hour on the dot, and I was like, funny, I show up, and it goes like extra time. Seems to be my MO. So you guys will know whenever it goes up. It was a really good discussion. I think you guys will enjoy it a lot. So let's get to some questions here. W. Matthew, Matt, do you still stand by Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite selling more copies than Dragon Ball Fighters? MVCI, everyone needs these acronyms. MVCI came out and tanked, but the hype for Dragon Ball Fighters only seems to be increasing. Did we have a bet about that where I said I thought Dragon Ball Fighters would sell more?
I think you just asked me what I thought.
Okay.
And I thought the Marvel license would carry it further, but like, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember what if there were sales numbers on Marvel.
There's no guarantees that Fighters is going to sell either.
No,
I mean,
fighting games
it could be great and it could still tank.
But, I mean, I think the hype it kind of depends whether the Dragon Ball fan base comes out for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, because clearly there's a lot more Dragon Ball fans than there are necessarily hardcore fighting game fans. And if they can get people aware of it and embrace it, yeah, I think it has a shot. Because Marvel sold way less than I expected it to.
I think everyone would say it sold way less than they thought. I mean, I know Capcom definitely feels that way.
Yeah, well, at least Capcom knows who to blame.
That's true.
So.
Itself. From Texture Glitch, what's going on with MechWarrior 5?
Good question.
Nobody knows.
There's another. I mean, that license is probably gone at this point. But like, where's MechAssault?
Yeah.
MechAssault
wow,
3.
I forgot about that.
How about that, Xbox?
Yeah.
You gotta hit me with a MechAssault.
I totally forgot about that franchise. Like, completely forgot about it.
So did Microsoft, I think.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, I'm sure that they don't have a license for BattleTech. BattleTech? Yes, BattleTech. Yeah.
There's a BattleTech game coming, though.
Yeah, but like, MechAssault is a very different take on. It's not like it's not like MechWarrior.
Yeah.
I wonder where that is. But MechWarrior 5, I don't know. Like we saw, what was that? Like a couple years ago, we saw that they did an E3 teaser kind of thing, and then it's just sort of vanished.
Yeah, it's disappeared. I don't know. We haven't got any update on it in quite a while, so your guess is as good as ours. Here's one from J Reed Vic 7. What's up, J Reed? What's your favorite game/gameplay meta that would hold up and still be passable and worth playing after a release in China and the inevitable censorship that it comes with? I don't know if I understand that question. I think you outthought yourself on that one, J Reed. Maybe re-ask it again and we'll find it lower. Wolfox 10JC, how were the holidays? We actually kind of covered that already on last week's show. We talked about our holidays. Are you one of those people who does not subscribe to Sifted or is not on our Patreon? You can't watch the archives?
Oh, no.
Yeah, actually, we slept getting the archive up on YouTube this week from last week's show. It should be going up in the next day or two. So if you are someone who waits for GameFace to go on YouTube to watch the archives, if you can't catch the stream, it should be up soon. The Stand User, what is the next game coming out that will make you pick up your Switch again? Good one. What were those games we just talked about earlier again?
I'm trying to remember if there's anything like current or new.
Well, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is coming out like May 4th or 5th, but I would hope I don't have to wait that long to play something on my Switch.
Depends when things come out. Like, I guess maybe World Ends With You. If World Ends With You or Mario Tennis is first, one of those probably.
That is a really good question, though. Like, what is the next Switch game that's going to make people play? I mean, that's why I sent my Switch into Nintendo. Right. Because I knew, I was like, this is a dead zone. And I was like, I don't need it for a while. I'm hoping they turn it around fast, though, still. Because I still want to play more Mario, but...
Right, like I'll pick it up to play something that I already have.
Yeah.
Something new? It's a ways out. Unless it's something I'm forgetting from last week.
Not really.
No. So probably, I would say Mario Tennis or The World Ends With You would be probably because I ain't playing Dark Souls on it. So
I'm not starting Dark Souls over again. I already started playing the 360 version on my Xbox One. I'm not going through what I made it through already ever again.
man, it's like you're like 1%.
Oh, I know, and I don't want to play. I don't want to play that part again. Definitely not. Yeah, I don't know if I could give you a good answer. I mean, maybe Tropical Freeze on May 4th. That's like 5 months away, 4 months away.
I'm not playing that, but yeah, I don't know. There's no release date on like The World Ends With You or any of that stuff like that. For some reason, I feel like that's like Q1-ish. No, that's not. There's no.
Let's see what's up with Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis was like April or something.
Q2.
All right, yeah, I mean Q2 looks like.
There you go.
I'll see you for Q2, Switch.
Yeah, it's a tough beginning of the year. Luckily, Switch has a bunch of good games already that are out there. Let's see. Let's find another one. Gohan saying I should get a Threadripper for my PC to help me encode video. I mean, encoding is like we already have like CUDA and everything that uses our NVIDIA graphics cards. It encodes pretty quick. It's just a long process. There's not much you can do to speed it up. Justin Horman. With the suspect of the Wichita swatting case going to trial and facing a maximum 36 months of prison? Do you think that's enough punishment to compel people to stop this atrocious 36 months is the max that guy can get?
For a false report that got a guy killed?
Wow. Well, I think we got your answer there.
You can get like misdemeanor possession charges that give you more trouble than that.
Oh my God. I hope that's wrong. That can't be right. 36 months for getting someone killed? I mean, isn't that at least like manslaughter?
Well, no, because he didn't shoot him. But like, it's a different thing. I mean, I don't know what the charge would be, but he wouldn't be charged with the murder of that guy. He'd be charged with like misuse of.
And the cops aren't going to get charged with it.
Right.
That's a shame. Of course, yes. That's way too little, man. That guy should be in prison for at least 5 years, at least. No justice, man. That's insane.
It will be a deterrent, but it will not be the deterrent that probably it should be.
Let's see. From Tomb Raiders 11, it's nearly a year since Scalebound got canceled. What do you see as a plausible game cancellation that could rock the industry? Thanks, Rye74, for subscribing with Twitch Prime, man. Appreciate it. I could name a ton of them. I mean, I don't even feel like Scalebound rocked the industry. I think Scalebound people were like, what the hell? And then as time has gone on, it's made less and less sense because Microsoft has no games.
They had nothing else to replace it. It's not like, oh, we got so many good things coming out. We don't want this mediocre thing crowding out the schedule. It's like, no, you really probably could have used a mediocre action game.
You could really use it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with Xbox One X. Like, it should be able to run it no problem.
I mean, like, the equivalent would be like if suddenly Crackdown gets canceled. I don't think it would happen, but it would be like another example of like, what are you doing? What's going on over there?
But what about other platforms, not Xbox platforms? Like Bayonetta 3 getting canceled, I think would be equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, God, why would you do that though? It's like
because the last one sold like crap.
Yeah, but they're already announced. Then you just don't make one, you know. Like, but they're already doing it.
But I'm thinking of an equivalent Japanese game, about the same level of interest from consumers. About the same chance of selling well as each other. Like, I think that's probably one comparison I would make.
I don't know. Like, you know, in
terms of
like rocking the industry, I guess like it would be something like Activision decides to skip a year with Call of Duty or something like that. You know, like I can't imagine they would ever want to do. I mean, canceling Beyond Good and Evil 2 would cause a lot of screaming. I don't know if that's rocking the industry exactly, but that would be the subject of all the podcasts that week, that's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of which, one of our curators, Vincent, is saying that the podcast with Colin is up now. So he's going to curate it and then pin it so it's on the top of everyone's sifts if you guys want to watch after GameFace is over. So yes, Vincent, pin that sucker. The Abram, did you have any reaction to the beep tweet from Cyberpunk? Yeah. thank God it's coming. Like
some life.
They're alive. The Twitter feed's alive again. Yeah, I'll take anything about that game. We did not mention that, by the way, in any of our preview coverage because it doesn't have a publisher. And just the way we structured these shows, it's like it probably should have been in the scraps
Well, it
at
doesn't
the end.
I mean, it would be a Warner Brothers published game, probably, because they've published the physical copies of the Witcher games.
Yeah.
And otherwise, CD Projekt Red self-publishes digitally.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see Cyberpunk this year, though.
I
think we'll see it shown at E3, finally, at something, but I don't think it'll come out till... Who knows?
Yeah, it seems still a little too soon, maybe. Yeah. Although they've been working kind of in tandem on that game with The Witcher for a while.
Yeah, well, they've had a while after The Witcher, DLC finished, and they created a whole new team to make Gwent.
Yeah.
So there's been enough time has passed. They probably should have something to show at E3, I would think.
I hope so.
But coming out this year, I don't think so.
But yeah, I was really excited to see their Twitter account come alive.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
But
I think it was, 4 years since they last tweeted?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like my Twitter feed. I never tweet. Let's see. Okay, so Jay Reed Vic rephrased his question. We'll try this again. What Chinese version of a game would still hold up / be worth playing even after it inevitably gets changed through censorship to fit Chinese law? Okay, I get it now. Any Nintendo game.
Yeah, I still don't really get... I guess maybe I just don't know Chinese censorship law well enough to know what... I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, what are the hallmarks of censorship in China?
Well, I know you can't show skeletons.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's a skeleton thing. That's like how, like...
I guess Sea of Thieves isn't happening.
Yeah, well, it's like how, like, World of Warcraft had to change the zombie models to not be skeletons or something.
Why is that?
It's just a cultural taboo.
Interesting.
It's not cool to show ancestors skeletons or something. I don't know. It's like how, like, in Japan, a bunch of animated stuff adds a fifth finger to the hands of characters, because most animated characters only have 3 fingers and the thumb. There's some shows will add the extra finger because that's a cultural taboo in Japan because of the Yakuza cutting the finger off thing.
Right, interesting.
So it's just cultural differences in that regard. But in terms of like censorship, I don't know if it's like a green red blood thing or whatever. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough to know.
I think the easy answer is any E-rated game.
Yeah, well, also like anything that there's skeleton stuff. There's like Mario can be a skeleton in Mario Odyssey. It's one of the. You probably lose that costume. You'd probably lose some Day of the Dead stuff in the Sand Kingdom.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like the Nintendo thing where it's like if it's fun to play with just rectangles and blocks, it's fun to play no matter what. So, yeah, Nintendo games would probably be a good answer to that.
Vincent updated. The maximum sentence for the felony ranges from 31 to 136 months. Okay. That sounds a little better. All right. I think that's it. Those are all the questions. GameFace 114 in the books. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I had a good time today. Mm-hmm. Like I said, next week we'll probably do our fantasy draft. And I honestly don't think that we stream that live. Because there's like some awkward downtime and some pauses here and there. I think we've always just like recorded it. We'll try to get a GameFace together for next week, but there's really nothing happening in the industry right now. It's really slow. Things will be ramping up though towards the end of the month. There's like 3 or 4 big games that are coming up at the end of the month.
You never know what's going to happen between now and then.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Anything could happen. We just got that direct out of nowhere yesterday. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely big news could happen, and we could have enough content for a show.
Death Stranding could be canceled. We don't know.
I think I know that's not going to happen, and not yet anyway.
There's a good answer to that.
Give it another 18 months, maybe.
There's a good answer to that question.
Death Stranding.
That would rock the industry.
Oh, man. China would never deal with that.
Oh, no, rocking the industry.
Oh, if it were canceled? Oh, God. Way more than Scalebound ever could hope to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Again, we apologize for last week's stream issues. It seems like the stream rocked out pretty well today. You guys were all in there. We had a lot of people in the chat, lots of questions, which we appreciate very much. So, everyone have an excellent weekend. Go Steelers. GameFace is up and out.